Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
And we are back after the highest of highs on Tuesday night with the Max Strus game winner. The Cavs came collapsing down in catastrophic fashion on Wednesday against the Chicago Bulls. We have Tyvis Powell in the house. We have Jason Lloyd back from Indy. I'm Mikey McNuggets. We got Anthony and Earl behind the glass today. But before we dive into topics, Jason, how was Indianapolis for the NFL Combine?
Nondescript. It was low-key. I don't have any great stories. I was only there a couple of days. I'm tired.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because as I go back to 2016, I was there for 4 days, and after day one, I was tired.
Yeah, ready to go home.
Yeah.
It has become this thing where like there used to be like 3 or 4 hot spots where all of the executives and coaches and people would hang out. But there is so much media there now that the media has flooded those places and scared them off. So I mean, they're still. We saw Alex Van Pelt at the one place.
Harry and Izzy's? St. Elmo's?
No, the High Velocity is like the High Velocity used to be the place, and it still kind of is. It's the bar inside the JW Marriott because most of the executives stay at the JW Marriott. And High Velocity is that restaurant/bar. So some of the Browns people were in there. Prime 47 has become a spot now in the last few years. That's where a lot of them go because they've been flushed out of some of these other places. But it's mostly just media now crawling around looking for it. I can't do it, man.
When you were there, Tyvis, how much was sponsored versus unsponsored? Because even when you watch NFL Network's coverage of the event now, it's like they have the Neon Energy 101 warm-up zone, and then you have the Ohio State University.
I feel like it wasn't.
track.
I feel like it wasn't that bad when I went. The things I remember about the Combine is I remember getting there day one. Obviously, the DBs go last. So I remember getting there day one, and I'm checking in, and I'm starting to see some of my teammates and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, they're telling me about the stories. But I'm constantly checking my phone because I got guys that's going, like running. I want to see what times they run and stuff like that. And I just remember that first night just being bombarded with just coaches and scouts and all of these people like pulling you every direction, like, hey, come talk to my guy, come talk to my guy, come talk to us.
That's not predetermined before you get to Indy? That's kind of on-the-fly scheduling?
That, yes, but you have official interviews. There's teams that like on day 3 we're going to do an interview with the Browns or the Broncos.
So
it's slotted. Like on Tuesday you got the Browns at 4, you got the Broncos at 6. Like that's the official meetings. But the unofficial is where they just pulling you each way. Like, come here, come talk to my guy, come right down. Tell me about yourself. And it's just like you literally talk to like 32 teams, and then you go to sleep. I think it's a cutoff time where like after this time you can't talk to nobody. It's like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So I get done with that and I go to my room. And then, by the way, you got a drug test at 4 a.m. So it's
4
like
a.m.?
4 a.m.
Oh.
And they like, listen, make sure you get there early because if you don't, everybody's coming down here. So you want to get there first, set an alarm for like 3:30, get down there early so you can get out the way, you can go back to sleep. If you don't, everybody got the same plan. So you get down there, everybody's already down there.
Is that still the case today?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But it is. You really don't get no sleep those 4 days.
I was going to say, I can't imagine being asked to perform at your peak when,
that's the
4
point.
a.m.
Yeah, that's the point. You really don't get a lot of sleep at the Combine. It's really terrible. It's terrible. You just like, let me get to day 4. Just let me get this over with. You hope that day 3, you try to go off and try to get some sleep, but you're not going to get a lot of sleep. It's just not going to happen.
I don't want to derail everything at 11:04, but what do you think of Marvin Harrison saying, nope?
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
I'm with you, but not only not the Combine, not Ohio State.
He ain't doing nothing.
You've seen what you need to see.
For what? What? This is the thing. What do you need to see out of Marvin Harrison that you can't see on tape?
I totally agree.
Literally. If you need to see his 40, you want to know how fast he is, turn the tape on. He's running past people. If you want to see him run routes, turn the tape on. He's running great routes. He catches the ball really well. Only thing that can happen for him is that he loses something by performing. That's literally what happens. I mean, think about it. A guy like C.J. Stroud last year, he was perfect, wonderful. He got knocked because of a dang test that he did bad on.
Is that a test at the combine though, or is that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It was the S2 cognitive.
Yeah, he took some tests, and all of a sudden he didn't perform well on this test, and now people are questioning it. It's like nothing really good comes out of performing at the combine. I will say it again. The combine is for those people that they're on the fence about it. If you go to like Toledo or Akron like that, and they don't know your competition, all right, let me see you run a good 40 time. Let me see you jump out the gym. All right, that makes me go back and look at your tape again. But if you somebody that's solidified, first round pick, balled out like Marvin Harrison, like Caleb Williams, why would Caleb Williams need to throw?
Yeah.
What do you need to do at the combine that's gonna make you think, oh yeah, this is really the guy?
Yeah.
No.
Are pro days overrated too then?
Everything,
those top guys?
all of that is overrated because at the end of the day, you got my tape. This game is not played with me just in a tank top and some compression shorts. You literally can turn my tape on and see everything you need to see.
It's crazy you say that, and we'll get into the video and everything else in a sec, but it's crazy you say that because while I don't disagree with a single word you said, you see guys blow up at the combine, and their stocks legitimately rise and fall based on the performances. You see guys at the pro day, and I'll use Zach Wilson for an example. Mm-hmm. He has that crazy, he makes the crossbody 70-yard throw to a receiver in shorts and a T-shirt, and somehow he catapults Justin Fields and Mac Jones and whoever else that was a third quarterback in that class.
And they wish
Trey Lance, who
wish
had a
they
different
could
story.
have it back.
But my point is, like, it feels like these teams do value these individual workouts that aren't coming in pads against 11 defenders or offensive players, whatever. But it does seem silly that
to me, it seems like every time that happens, they end up making the wrong choice. Like, that's the thing. And I respect some people that, like, for example, when I was going through the combine, I remember Von Bell. Von was playing safety, and I can't remember. It was something he didn't do at the combine. It was like 2 drills. I think he didn't do the L drill and the 20-yard shuttle, I think. And I remember Sean Payton texted him and said, I really want you to do these drills so I can see your time. And because he was like, I'm not about to do them. Like, there's no point in me doing them. But he said since he reached out and asked him to do it, he did the thing at the pro day, and they ended up drafting him. So, like, in that situation, I understand that. But for a lot of the times, I don't understand what difference it makes. Like I said, if you're a guy that's in the 5th round or projected 6th round, something like that,
it could certainly help.
It can absolutely help you. For me, I was a guy that was on the fence with a lot of things. My combine numbers is as good as anybody's. Nah, I ain't jump out the gym or nothing like that. My 40 time was really good. One of the fastest safeties there. Bench press 15 as a safety, that's like pretty average. Jumping is pretty average, but for some odd reason I slid. So it's like it don't make it. You know, make that make sense.
What you're saying. It's a crapshoot.
Make it make sense.
Awesome. All right, well, we're going to get to the Cavs in one sec, but first, some really, really, really good news in the world yesterday that if you didn't see, we're going to be happy to show you guys in 1 second. We all know Jim Donovan in his fight with leukemia. Yesterday, he had the opportunity to ring the bell. And, guys, for someone who means as much not only to this station, upstairs with WKYC, the Browns as an organization as a whole, how awesome is it to see Jimmy get to this point in his recovery? And
I actually didn't know that. I totally missed that because I was traveling. That's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
I haven't been on social media, so I haven't seen it either. But you know, that's we joke around on the pregame. I call him that's my godfather right there. And it's nice to see that he's cancer free. You know, Jimmy is a fighter. I mean, that's the one thing I respect about him, and everybody loves him. And I don't know, the games sound better, and the Browns just perform better when he's in that booth. So I'm glad that he was able to overcome this because that right there is tougher than any challenge that you'll ever face on the football field. To be looking death in the face and not blink one time. I got a lot of respect and a lot of love for Jim Donovan. So shout out to you.
Jimmy, we're rooting for you. Congratulations on the progress you've made so far. Hopefully it's the last time you ever have to step in a hospital for any type of cancer treatment, but to see you ring the bell puts a smile on our faces, and I'm sure it puts a smile on everyone's face across Browns Nation. The Browns are better with you in the booth. We as fans are better for listening to you each and every week, and we hope for continued well-being and health moving forward. So, Jimmy, kudos, and we're going to continue to root for you moving forward. And let's get a read, and then we'll start on that Cavs double overtime loss last night.
Yeah, guys, I want to remind everybody that you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You guys can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And we do actually have a winning ticket today from Lamont No Stanford, I hope I'm saying that right, with the Florida money line, Duke -20.5, Marquette -11.5, Tennessee money line, Iowa State money line, South Carolina +5.5, Alabama money line, Minnesota +11.5, and Arizona money line turned $10 into $460. So if you guys have a winning FanDuel ticket, make sure you send it in to Mikey or myself. It's great. We'll get it up there, and we'll give you the credit you deserve.
And Tyvis has a winning ticket, too. He's going to share with us after the next FanDuel read. But, guys, let's talk about the Cavs. Lost to Chicago last night. If you had told me before the game, before tip-off, that Darius Garland would go 7 of 14 from three, Karis LeVert would have had 15 assists. The team would make 22 threes as a team, the Cavs would, and Evan Mobley would have 25 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks, and Kobe White would go 5 of 20 from the floor. I'd say the Cavs win by 30, right? That's a pretty damn good recipe for success. However, it is really tough to win basketball games in the NBA when you get out-rebounded by 35. The Cavs made Andre Drummond look like prime Wilt Chamberlain last night. He had 26 rebounds. Jared Allen had 4. For a team that had the soft label coming into the season after how the Knicks handled them in the postseason, last night was not a great showing for the Cavs front line. It's also hard to win games in the NBA when your closer doesn't close. Donovan Mitchell looked gassed the entire game, coming off a back-to-back, coming off the illness, maybe a little bit to be expected, but down the stretch, he missed a crucial free throw in overtime that would have extended the lead to 4. The Bulls came back, hit free throws to send it to double overtime. At the end of regulation, he had a turnover on their final offensive possession. Then they got a defensive stop, but Donovan Mitchell was not his typical self in the final minutes. And then when you look at the total minutes, Sam Merrill didn't see the court at all last night, Jason, despite the game going to double overtime, despite some of their starters playing damn near 50 minutes. Kerr only played 24 minutes. LeVert played 39. Niang and Wade combined for 25 minutes. Really hard to win when you combine all those factors together. But, Tyvis, I'll start with you. You texted us last night. You said the game was over. I turned the TV off. What the hell's going on?
Man.
So how do you explain what happened last night to the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Listen. First of all, Andre Drummond looked unbelievable. And I was just so shocked. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. The excuse is there. You know, they just came off of they're playing back-to-back games.
Real quick, Chicago was also on the second night of a back-to-back.
The excuse is there. They're playing back-to-back games. They used a lot of energy to win that game. I understand all of that. But the thing that got me the most, it was the rebounding thing. Like, that really bothered me because Chicago did, like, their coach was smart. The last time we played them, I think we really did well on the boards. And he countered that by starting Andre Drummond and Vucevic.
Yep.
And that was a wrinkle that I wasn't expecting. You know, I thought, why would they do that? But this man, Andre Drummond, oh my goodness, he just completely owned the paint. Like, he was getting rebounds, he was getting points, and for Jared Allen to only have, 4 rebounds in the game, that was ridiculous. I did think that Darius would step up. I sat here yesterday and I told, when Earl was going off, I said, he's going to probably play well tonight. And he did. You know, he took the night off 2 nights ago, so I was like, he's going to make up for it this night. But at the end of the day, that paint thing, like, you can't, y'all been doing so well. I thought the narrative had changed where you don't get punked in the paint no more. Y'all literally stand up. If you think about last year in the Knicks series, it was Mitchell and Randall dominating the paint. It was the same fashion right here when I watched this game. But like I said, you can say that they was gassed, but at some point you got to stand up and make some stops. And then as far as the closing of the game, I can't believe it went into double overtime. Like, I literally – listen, the last thing I seen before I turned it back on was it was like 15 seconds left. Mitchell had just got fouled. I said, oh, that's game. You know, Mitchell going to hit these free throws. I cut it off, walked upstairs, sitting up there talking to the lieutenant. And I check my phone again, and I see the game is still going. And I'm like, what happened?
It went
like,
forever.
what happened? I'm thinking they're going to go up 5. That's the end of it. No, you tell me that Jared Allen, of all people, fouls DeMar DeRozan, which, why would you foul a three-point shooter anyway?
It's a tough look. It was a tough look.
Like, why would you do that? Like, it's just, the fatigue came in and you get lazy and you start doing things that you normally don't do when you're tired. So I'm going to just chalk it up and say that y'all was gassed, but that was a win that y'all should have had. Y'all had so many chances to win that game, and it's like y'all just could not close the game. And y'all let them stick around, and boom, they ended up winning.
Here's the concern for me. The Bulls aren't a very good team, but teams with big physical bigs are going to continue to give the Cavs problems. We saw it last year with Mitchell Robinson in the Knicks series. We've seen it with how – go back and look how Chicago's played the Cavs. First 2 games of the series, they brought Andre Drummond off the bench. He wasn't much of a factor. He was in foul trouble in the first game. Cavs win both games by double figures. They go to the double big lineup. They bring Andre Drummond. They start Andre. He really hadn't started very many games this year, but he starts against the Cavs. Why? Well, because they struggle at this double big look. And Drummond had a pretty good game, I believe. I'm trying to recall now.
It was Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It was the day that Darius hit the step back over Caruso, but Drummond had a very effective game.
And they should have lost. Cavs probably should have lost that game. But they fought back and won. All credit to them for coming back and winning. And now here you see last night, again, the Bulls go to Drummond as the starter, and he just demolishes them with 26 rebounds. Teams with big physical bigs are going to give the Cavs problems. It's whether it's regular season, postseason. You know, I don't make too much about the regular season, but trends do matter, and this is a trend. And so it's really going to come down to matchups. And, you know, if it's the Knicks again, if it's, you know, Joel Embiid, I'd certainly put him in that category as someone who could give this team fits. Teams that have those big physical guys in the middle that can push Evan and Jared around are going to give the Cavs problems, and last night was evidence of that.
Well, you know, Drummond got a little extra in his tank because Jared Allen essentially replaced Drummond.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Those were back in the dark days of the Cavaliers.
It's the right move in hindsight. Jared Allen's better than Andre Drummond.
Yeah,
It's not
but,
really.
Drummond, I'm just telling you, Drummond go every time he played the Cavs and he sees Jared Allen, he's gonna go at it.
Yeah, I never understood the Drummond move, why they brought him here in the first place.
I thought they was just trying to help somebody get rid of his contract. Detroit.
Well, they had cap space. They weren't going to be able to use it anyway else, so they just took him on, even though nobody else in the league wanted Drummond at the time at that number.
He's a great rebounder.
He is,
and he always has been a phenomenal rebounder. Yeah. There are a couple of things that stood out last night, and first is they were up 12 with 8 minutes left. And when you're up 12 with 8 minutes left against an inferior opponent, and give the Bulls credit, they played scrappy. They're a tough team, but talent-wise, especially when they have Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, Alonzo Ball, and Patrick Williams all not in the lineup, there's not a talent comparison there. The Cavs are a far superior team. There's no real excuse to blow a 12-point lead in the final 8 minutes when you're a relatively good free throw shooting team. And the other team, just like you, is in the second night of a back-to-back, but give the Sumu credit. He made a couple tough shots. DeRozan was a monster. But it kind of shows the basketball gods working in favorable ways and unfavorable ways. If you look at the Mavs game and the Bulls game, the Cavs should be 1-1. They just won the game they probably should have lost and lost the game they probably should have won. So at the end of the day, the 1-1 result in this back-to-back is probably accurate in how it should have played out. But you saw against Dallas, Mitchell went shot for shot with Kyrie and Luka in terms of the closing minutes. And then you had Strus, who went 5 for 5 in the last 3.5 minutes as their secondary option when they needed a bucket, a secondary closer. Well, last night, and I'm not crucifying Mitchell, but he was clearly gassed, like clearly on his last legs, coming off the illness, second night of a back-to-back.
What did he finish with, 19? I might say
19 points. Yeah, 19 points. He had 11 points, and he was 3 of 9 in clutch moments, which is the final 5 minutes and or overtime of a 5-point game. He was 3 of 9. He missed the free throw, had the turnover. He wasn't his prototypical, and he's been really good in the clutch this season. Just last night, he didn't have it. And if he doesn't have it, they need someone else to step up. And Garland played a really good game. He made 7 threes. Garland was really good.
I personally would have gave it. When Donovan drove at the end and tried to kick, I don't know who he was trying to kick it to.
At the end of regulation?
Yeah.
It was Garland in the corner. It got stole by Kobe White. Yeah.
Okay.
So they just need someone else. And against Dallas, it was Max Strus. Last night, it could have been Darius or Max or Mobley, who was, Mobley had 25 points himself. He had a really quiet 25, but still scored 25 points. I thought maybe letting Donovan be the decoy and let someone else be the primary closer just because it didn't seem like Donnie had his legs would have been what I went to. But I also think when you're looking at how many minutes the game went to, double overtime, obviously, I understand you're trying to get your playoff rotation set, maybe, but it's the second night of a back-to-a-back. If there's ever a time to get Sam Merrill some minutes, ever a time to let Dean Wade and Niang play a little more. Granted, you were getting killed on the glass, but hey, it wasn't like Jared Allen was putting up any resistance against Andre Drummond. Could Dean Wade or George Niang really have done any worse in that regard? I would have loved to have seen last night be a time where JB expands the rotation just to keep these guys fresh for the long stretch.
Do you think it would have been bad? Because when I seen them do the two big match, I thought to myself, why not go back to the shooting lineup,
and make them adjust.
Adjust. That's kind of how I would have done that, make
Drummond chase.
Right. Like I thought that would have been the perfect thing, but I don't know. It's the regular season. I guess you're still trying to figure things out. You want that to gel. You want to see if they are physical, if they can go up against two guys. But when Vucevic fouled out, I really said it was over. I said, oh, man, let me really cut this thing off, man.
When Drummond was in his prime in Detroit, the Cavs got him off the floor in that playoff. When the year they won the championship, they ran him off the floor with all the shooting that they had. Yeah. With Channing Frye and those guys. You can get to lineups, if you have the right personnel, you can get to lineups that makes it very difficult to play somebody like Drummond. But I don't know if this Cavs team fits that person. Dean Wade, you're right, but are you going to put Dean Wade at center?
No.
But he could have been the 4 when they had Vooch and Drummond, because then one of those two has to start chasing somebody around.
Well, Mobley would have been the 5.
Well, Ivan's got to shoot. Like, you've got to shoot. If you're going to go to that lineup.
He will have to shoot. He can.
But we talk about the two big, real quick, this is a good point. You talk about the two big lineup and the theoretical advantages playing two bigs, two traditional bigs. Evan Mobley's still a traditional big at this point of his offensive career. The advantages are you should dominate the paint, dominate the boards, and other teams they shouldn't be able to do what Chicago did last night. Mm-hmm. And Evan had a good game. He scored 25 points. Like Evan had a really good game last night. 13, and 4 blocks. Evan played a fantastic game last night. But who had the better front court game? Vooch and Drummond? Or Allen and Mobley? And it's not really close. They had the theoretical advantage of having two bigs, but it didn't materialize to the actual advantages you would think two bigs have.
Well, the way we talking about this, it make it seem like it comes back to JB then, because it's like JB, you gotta recognize, and that's the thing. For some odd reason, it always comes back to JB. Like, try it. Like this would be the time to try it. Like, to see if I go up against the Knicks again in the series again, what am I going to do differently this time than I did last time? Let me go out there and try to maybe see if I can get some shooters out there to force them to come out of this. I mean, it's a perfect thing. They got Chicago's big man have the same mentality as the Knicks big man. Like, be physical in the paint. We're tougher than them. Let's get the boards and all of those things. Bully ball, yeah. So this was a perfect test to show that you've learned from your mistakes. And I don't know. I guess he just kind of, maybe he don't trust himself yet, or he don't trust his lineup I don't know. He got to figure that out, though, because you're going to see the Knicks at some point.
You said on Tuesday when we did the Ultimate Cavs show, you just want to see JB kind of finalize his rotations for the playoffs. And while I do think big picture-wise over 26 games, that's the right approach. On the second night of a back-to-back, I just don't understand why you couldn't have tried to squeeze
I'm a little surprised.
A few more minutes for Merrill, and the combination of Niang and Wade only got 25. It was 14 for Niang, 11 for Wade. JB, I think, for the most part, has done a pretty good job this season, but last night I do have some serious questions about why he put such a toll on these guys coming on the second night of a back-to-back with 25 games to go. It just felt unnecessary.
No, I agree. And the Sam Merrill thing is weird, too, that he didn't play at all. Like, you got to make shots. When you're going against big lineups like that, you got to make shots. And he's
spread him out. Yeah, Merrill,
too. He's still shooting 40-plus percentage.
He hasn't played much, so the numbers haven't changed. He didn't play against Dallas. He didn't get off the bench last night.
Is he a defensive liability?
He's not a great defender, but he's not terrible.
You know JB values defense. So.
But if you have Mobley and Allen in the game, you can sacrifice a little perimeter defense because you're funneling whoever the opposing guards are into two bigs you feel very confident in defending the rim. That's the advantage of having the two bigs out there.
The Heat paid Duncan Robinson, and they sat him on the bench for half a season because he couldn't play defense.
But he also wasn't making shots. Sam Merrill's still shooting 42% from the floor.
You got something there.
I just think JB trusts the veterans, and I'm not defending that because I think at some point you got to trust the kids. And I mean, Sam Merrill's not a kid; he's 27 years old, but he doesn't have the experience that some of these other guys have. And he's gonna revert back and rely on the guys who have been there before. But last night felt like an opportunity to get Merrill some run. But clearly, he's the 10th man. Sam's the 10th man in a 9-man rotation, 8-man rotation.
We're going to talk about this tomorrow. So, Tyvis, I want you to hold your thoughts. I just want to ask Jason this real quick. How badly do they miss Tristan Thompson? And could you ever have imagined a world in 2024 where I was saying, holy crap, the Cavs desperately need Tristan Thompson back.
He could be. Now, we have to see. I don't mean this. I don't want to make a joke about this.
Him
we
without
have to see,
that stuff.
Yeah, we got to see what he looks like when he comes back. But
how many games he got left in the suspension? You know,
it's
a couple more.
Yeah,
okay. It's a hand. It's
I
5
think
or
it's
6.
mid-March. He's back mid-March.
He's got like 5 or 6 games left. Yeah.
Okay. He can help in those instances. Like last year, they had no playable bigs in that Knicks series behind Jarrett and Evan. And this year, you would hope with Tristan and Dean, you've got options. I'm not saying they're all going to play in every game. It's all matchup based. It's who's hot. It's when you get into a playoff series, things can change. But at least they have flexibility and some options now that they didn't have last year. And Tristan, depending on the matchup, Tristan could be a big piece for them, for sure.
So they have 8 games until Tristan comes back. He comes back on March 16th. You want to know the 8 opponents they play before Tristan comes back? Boston is in. It's a gauntlet. Their upcoming schedule
March
is really
is rough.
Tough.
Yeah.
So here's their whole March. Here's their March schedule up until the 24th. You ready for this?
Yeah.
They have Detroit on the road tomorrow night.
Oh, that's okay.
Game you got to win. Then you're home for 2 games back-to-back, New York and Boston. We're going to learn a lot about in that 2 stretch. Hit the road for Atlanta. Then you have a 3-game home stretch. Minnesota, number 1 seed in the West right now. Brooklyn, push over, they're terrible. Then Phoenix comes to town. Then you hit the road and go to New Orleans and Houston and Indiana. And then you play Miami, Minnesota, Miami.
That's legit.
A lot more tough games in that stretch than there are pushovers. You're playing the best teams in the league. You got Minnesota, number 1 seed in the West.
We gonna know
Boston,
something.
number 1 seed in the East. Phoenix, New York, Indiana's in the playoff race. New Orleans, Houston's no pushover. Miami, they're zombies, but I'm not counting Miami out. They're always a tough test. Like, that's a gauntlet.
Yeah.
We gonna know something in mid-March. We gonna know. I mean, I tell you what, that Knicks game gonna be really must-see TV now because they probably saw that game and was like, they still the same old Cavs.
Well, it's on it's on either ESPN or TNT. It's a nationally televised game, so we'll find out.
What's our record? Like, what we like 6-5 nationally televised? 6-6?
I don't know that. I did see the Cavs record against teams above 500 is not great, and the record against teams sub 500 is phenomenal, like 24-3 against sub 500 teams. And I bet you I can find it real quick. Give me 1 second. Jason, will you fill a minute while I find the stat?
Well, you should beat up on teams. Like, you're never going to – rarely are you going to dominate above 500 teams. You know,
I got it.
You want to try and go 500 or so against really good teams.
So, above 500 teams, and this was from – so this has to include these last 2 games. They're 14-17 above 500 teams. They are 24-3 against sub 500 teams. Now, that's not – totally off-brand for the best teams in the league. But I'll read you the other records of the top teams in the league above 500. So above 500, and this is from 2 days ago. I don't have the updated for everybody.
It's close enough.
But close enough. Boston, 23-11.
That's really good.
Minnesota.
Above 500?
Minnesota, 23-12. OKC, 22-12. Denver, 19-15. Cleveland, 14-17. The Clippers, 19-16. Milwaukee, 19-13. New York, 12-21, even worse than the Cleveland Cavaliers. Phoenix is 500, and New Orleans, 18-15.
So the 1 seeds in each are very, very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's not 14-17. It's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
Especially, I mean, there's a couple swing games in there that can go.
Yeah.
So around 500. Typically, unless you're elite, typically that's what good teams do. You go about 500 against good teams. You smoke the teams that you should beat, and that's how you get a pretty good record.
So I say all that just to set up the fact we're going to learn a lot about this Cleveland Cavaliers team in the month of March. You could have your opinions now, and it could be drastically different in 4 weeks when they play a stretch of teams who are all not only just above 500, but some of the best teams in their respective conference. Ant, what's up?
Hey guys, before we move into our next topic, I want to remind everybody that you can become a member of UCSS. You can like and subscribe. We love all the support you guys give us. We appreciate everybody tuning in and watching every day and giving us whatever support you can get. Share with your friends, like, subscribe on YouTube, join a membership, get overtime for extra benefits. Everything is there for you guys, and we love that you guys are here. Mike, you're talking about learning a lot about the Cavs, and I think you have some questions you want answered. And in the way we're going to do this is going to look at the ESPN NBA tiers that came out for their playoff teams.
They did. So ESPN put this out this week, and I guess there's been a game or two since the initial rankings came out, but they listed their playoff teams in different tiers of how legitimate contenders they are heading into the postseason. So they have one team in the legit contender title or category, and that is the Boston Celtics.
Of course.
In the inner circle of contenders, and I apologize for reading off my phone here, they have the Bucks, the Clippers, and the Nuggets. Then the Cavs fall into the hopeful tier, along with a bunch of other teams, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Phoenix, the Knicks, and Philadelphia. And then the long shots, which is the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Heat, and the Golden State Warriors. ESPN did not give an exact breakdown of what they considered when putting teams in each category, Jason. But based on that, are the Cavs categorized properly in the hopeful tier?
Yeah, I think so. If I'm Minnesota, I'm pissed. Minnesota should be higher than that. They're really good.
Isn't OKC in that one too?
OKC was in the hopefuls as well.
Yeah, and that's probably, they're so young, but man, they're good. OKC's going to be good for a really long time. That's probably. I think Minnesota should be higher, but everything else, I think that's about where they should be. I don't think they're elite. I've had the Bucks above them all year. I know the Bucks have been a mess this year. They're still the Bucks. They still have Giannis and Dame. Their coaches won a championship. I know a lot of people think he's overrated. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but they'll be there at the end. You need stars to win, and they've got the stars. And I would put the Cavs a click below both those teams in the East.
Tyvis?
It's definitely right to me. I mean, they haven't. I mean, they play some good basketball. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I just can't. They haven't had no postseason success, and it's so hard to put them in any category above hopefuls right now because of the fact that we haven't seen them have postseason success. When all those other teams have either won it, been in the championship, or been close to winning the championship. So they're in the right spot. OKC should be higher. I don't care what Jason says. They should be a little bit higher.
Well, you can't have OKC higher than Minnesota. But neither one. I mean, Minnesota's not had a lot of postseason success.
What was the second tier's name?
It was the teetering inner circle contenders. That's the Nuggets, the Bucks, and the Clippers.
They're inner circle.
You're going to put them with the Nuggets won a championship. The Bucks have won a championship. Clippers have not, but they got a ton of talent. You want to put the Thunder with them? With those three?
Yeah.
Above your precious Bucks?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, wait, no.
They're the same thing.
Okay.
If the Clippers can be in there, why can't OKC be in there?
I actually don't have an issue necessarily with where the Cavs are ranked. I have an issue with a lot of other teams. Like a lot of other teams that I think are too low or too high.
Who you got?
I personally don't think Milwaukee should be in that category. They play zero defense. Zero defense.
But they have the best player in the NBA.
And they also have Doc Rivers, so it's a complete neutral. So to me, they're too high. I also look at...
Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? Players play the game.
And Doc Rivers blows 3-1 leads.
That ain't got nothing to do... Giannis won't let that happen. Dame won't let that happen. They was sitting...
Dame and his playoff success ain't going to let...
Dame ain't never had a talent like he's never played with the best player to ever play the game. So,
oh my Lord,
sure, Tyvis. PJ Walker's also the greatest quarterback to ever walk the face of the earth. We're gonna just let that one go. I also think when you look at the hopeful categories, or the long shots. I mean, I know the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors aren't having tremendous regular season success, but. You know, if I asked you this question, just point blank, who would you be more surprised if they win a championship this season? Cleveland, LA, or Golden State? How would you rank those three?
I'd probably put Cleveland third.
Me too. So like,
that's messed up.
I mean,
do you disagree?
But
yes.
Look at who they've got on their team. They've got dudes who know how to do it.
How would you rank those three teams in terms of which you'd be most or least surprised? So one least.
If Golden State won it, I wouldn't be surprised.
So they're your least.
Yeah.
Lakers or Cavs.
The Lakers is last to me. They can't figure it out. They played a good game last night, but I don't know. They just fall apart to me all
I
the
don't know.
time.
In my opinion, when you're building a championship contender,
It's coming out of the West, make it a little bit easier maybe than the East.
they're both
West
tough.
is pretty good.
Yeah, West is pretty good. But the thing is, the teams at the top of the West don't have the experience.
That's what I'm saying. It's Minnesota, OKC.
Yes.
But when I look at the Cavs in terms of like where they rank in pure championship contender categories, there's three major questions I think they need to answer, and we'll find out if they get these answers. But first and foremost, your best player is a small guard. The history of the NBA tells you that's not necessarily – it's not impossible to win. There are obviously examples of it happening, Steph and Isaiah Thomas, but for the most part, it's really tough to have your best player be an undersized guard and your second best player to also be an undersized guard. So overcoming that's going to be a question they have to answer. They also have two non-shooting bigs. We're yet to see if that can be a successful recipe for success in today's modern era of basketball with so much three-point shooting. Then you have the J.B. Bickerstaff question, which we just alluded to in the last conversation. Is J.B. Bickerstaff a championship coach? Look at the other coaches in the Eastern Conference. You got some really good guys near the top. You got to get through Spo. I don't think Doc is on the same category as that, but Tibbs is a really good coach. Mazzulla has the Celtics playing at a really high level. I mean, they got three questions they legitimately have to answer before I could put them in championship inner circles.
Yeah, but you can't put Mazzulla in any sort of elite category. Coach.
I actually should be fired for putting him in the same conversation, same sentence as Spo, so bad job out of me. But they're really good, and they're winning despite any
really
coaching
good.
issues. But I'm just saying, before they get into that inner circle of contenders, I need answers to those three questions. So I think based on how ESPN categorized these four rankings, I think they're in the right spot.
The Celtics coach,
Mazzulla.
Because after whatchamacallit did what he did,
Ime.
yeah, they picked him, right? Or
was
was
on
he
staff.
already
He
on
was an
staff?
assistant. He was
So
an
he just got okay.
He was promoted. Yeah.
If they don't make the finals, I think
He's
out.
gone.
Oh
They-
yeah,
they have to make
I
the
mean,
finals.
yeah. Look at the
I'm
roster.
not going to say they have to win it all, but they've got to get there. They've got to get to the finals, or he's out.
I had someone DM me last night and ask if if you were picking just head coaching matchups,
Yeah.
JB versus the other top teams in the East, start with Boston. Would you take Mazzulla or JB Bickerstaff in a playoff series?
I don't have any faith in Joe Mazzulla. I'm not saying JB's done anything, but that's a coin flip to me.
Yeah, I'm a wash on that
That's
one. I don't
kinda
feel
funny 'cause
strongly.
I feel the same way.
I don't feel strongly either way.
Yeah.
In the 2 seed is the Cavs. 3 seed right now is Milwaukee, Doc Rivers, or JB. Tyvus, I'll let you start on that one.
I'm not a Doc Rivers fan either, but I mean, he's won one.
He's had a lot more playoff
Yeah,
success than
that's the end of the
than
day.
JB.
He's won playoff games.
Yeah.
JB has.
You have to give the nod to
Yeah.
Doc, but I tend to agree with Mike on a lot. Doc keeps falling up. It's unbelievable.
Doc's flawed, or Doc is flawed. He
I
certainly
agree.
is not perfect.
I agree.
Tibbs.
I'm taking.
Oh, I mean, we saw last year.
I'm
what
taking
happened.
T.
Yeah.
I mean, Spo.
That's stop it. Don't
Spo's
even do
best
that.
coach in the league.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse.
Nick
I'm
Nurse
actually not as big
You're
on
not as
Nick.
high. You've never been as high on Nurse.
No.
He got a ring.
But he's got a ring,
Yeah.
and so for that you got to.
But he also had Kawhi when Kawhi was like
peak Kawhi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
And he ain't done nothing outside of that.
No, I'm not that high on Nick Nurse.
I'm not that high on Nick
But
Nurse
I'll
either.
give him. I'll give him.
he
the
does
nod.
get the benefit of the
Yeah.
doubt. He has
Yeah.
a ring. And then you got a bunch of young guys towards the bottom. I'm missing anyone in the Eastern Conference? Quinn Snyder in Atlanta, but
I think Quinn Snyder's really good.
if you're just going coaching matchups, I think Quinn.
He's
He's
really
won
good.
Coach of the Year too, which I know isn't the end all be all,
but yeah.
he's a good coach. I'm trying to think anyone else in the Eastern Conference. The Nets don't have a coach. I don't even know the name of the coach in Toronto. He's the European guy. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Rakovic or something like that.
Yeah.
Who's the Pacers coach?
Oh, Rick Carlisle.
Carlisle's
Carlisle's a
excellent.
really good coach.
I
Excellent.
like Rick Carlisle.
So
really
when you
good.
look at just the head coach, you take the teams out of it. I mean, JB's not in the top tier of Eastern Conference coaches, which is a question that has to be answered. He certainly can move into that
They win
category
a
in
couple
conversation
series this year.
if he wins a series or two. But at this moment, on February 29th, like we don't have the requisite information to be able to make that assessment fairly.
I think Jace is 100% right. When it comes to the Cavs' playoff success, it's all about the seeding this year. Like
Yeah.
whoever they draw in the
Matchups.
playoff, that's
Yeah.
if they go up against the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid is back,
Right now,
I'm
today,
scared.
11:39, February 29th, 2024. Let's just assume for the sake of this the Cavs hold on to the 2 seed. Who's your ideal matchup for them to face as a 7 seed?
The
I have to look at
Pacers.
the standings.
Pacers? I
I don't
disagree.
think it's the Pacers.
I disagree with
I don't
Pacers.
think it's the
Let
Pacers.
me look. I'm trying to look at the team.
All right, well, you guys are looking up. I have an answer. It's the Orlando Magic. And despite the fact that they're a physically dominant team.
Oh, they would play the Pacers right now.
They have
That's
size
funny.
and length across the board. They're long. Their wingspans can give teams trouble. But just like the Cavs in the postseason last year, you got to go through your playoff lumps before you kind of become a legit contender. I think they're a year early on their full development as a legit threat in the Eastern Conference. And they struggle to score. And we got to figure out, I'm not worried about the Cavs' defense in the postseason. Even last year against the Knicks, the Cavs' defense was not the issue whatsoever. They got killed on the glass. And even if they had league average offense, they had a chance to beat New York. Their offense just completely sputtered out. I think the Magic in the first round would be the perfect matchup where you have to expend yourself, but you don't have to play a great series to win to kind of ramp up to the next round.
They should be either Orlando or Indianapolis. Either one of those two teams.
Indianapolis doesn't exist.
I mean, not Indiana. Excuse me. I'm thinking of the Colts. The Pacers or the Magic, they should be either one of those teams.
So, you're looking Pacers 7, Magic 8, Bulls 9, Hawks 10 because you're going play-in route.
Yeah.
You're going to get the play-in winner of that. I agree with you on the Magic. I think Atlanta they would handle. I think Chicago would give them problems because of what we saw last night. Like, that's real. You start Andre Drummond, and Chicago looks a little bit like New York did. Not as talented, but a little bit like the Knicks did last year. That's a problem.
Is there a chance Levine comes back for the playoffs, or is he done for the season?
I think he's I don't know the answer to that. I was going to say I think he's done. But
Are he trying to get out of there?
But I don't know.
They're trying to trade him. But Caruso will be back.
I think the Pacers are really good, too. Like, not really good, like elite, but
it's a style.
You don't think they would beat them in the 7 games?
No, I think they would. But I think the Cavs.
I ain't saying they're going to just 4-0 them. No, I'm not saying that at all.
I think I would pick the Cavs to beat the Pacers, but I think the Pacers, especially with Rick Carlisle, I think they could give the Cavs a lot of problems. That's probably a 6-game series.
In this scenario, the Cavs are the 2 seed. We better be picking them to beat whoever they play in the first round if it's a 2-7 matchup. I don't care who the hell the opponent is.
Right.
That's a matchup they should not only be favored to win, but it should be a clean sweep across the board when we're picking that series. So you said Indiana, though, Tyvis? You think that's who you'd want to play in the first round?
No, I agree with y'all on the Magic. But I feel like if it was the Pacers, I'd be fine with that, too.
I think you'll know. I'll go back to when Ty was here. You knew right away Ty was really good at this. Like, you knew right away. And I just think it's not fair to judge JB last year because the roster just wasn't what he needed. It is now. Now you can grade JB. And I think you'll know right away in the playoffs whether or not he's what he can do it or not. Because I'll go back to when Ty, the year they won the championship, that series against the Pistons, and some of his creative ATOs and the way that and Stan Van Gundy, they went up against Stan, and Stan was a really good coach.
Good coach.
Yeah, I mean he's players don't like him, but he knows how to coach. And the Cavs would run a certain inbounds play, and Stan had the counter to it. So Ty came up with the counter to the counter, and he and Larry Drew scribbled it out on a napkin 45 minutes before the game, and they used it at the end of the game. It was a deli inbounds, and I think it was Kyrie in the corner, and Ty was like ecstatic after the game that like it worked, and he got one over on Stan. Like they countered the counter to the counter, and that's what JB's going to have to be able to do. And I think you'll know quickly whether or not he can do it or not, because I could see it right away with Ty. It's like, this guy's got it. You'll know quickly.
One thing on the out-of-bounds timeout. Did you watch the game last night, or did you just
I was driving home. I saw a little bit of it today. I watched it this morning a little bit.
Which part?
Okay, so with a minute and 1 second left in the last 3 minutes, or with a minute left in the regulation, so before overtime.
Okay, I think I was paying attention at this time.
The ball got deflected out of bounds at like a minute 3, right?
Is this when Darius tried to get the steal?
No, Darius drove on the left side. He put an attempt up. Vucevic swatted out of bounds.
Okay.
They have an out-of-bounds play on the – if the basket's in front of you, they're on the right side.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't able to find the replay of that play in particular. It ended up with a Mobley 3 in the corner, and he ended up shooting with a second and a half, 2 seconds on the shot clock. I don't think that was the play design. And if it was, then I have an issue with the play design. But you're not running a play for Mobley to catch a corner 3 with 2 seconds left. So I'm 99.5% positive that was not the intent of the play. And I haven't been able to find a replay that shows or diagrams what they were looking to do, because it's not in the cut-up because it was a missed shot. They didn't make it. But Ty Lue was phenomenal at ATOs. Mm-hmm. And there are some coaches around the league, and I'm making a bigger point about JB here, and a question we're going to have to ask. There are coaches around the league who get paid specifically for their out-of-bound plays, after timeout plays, these design sets when you have 3 seconds on a shot clock to generate a good look. A lot of staffs, I'm not sure who on the Cavs staff is that person, Jason. You may know. They may not have one, but
Yeah,
I know in Portland they have a specific guy who's a player development guy, but also he's their guru of ATOs.
Yeah.
Philly, there was a guy too when Eli was there. I don't know what the play design was last night. I want to go back and see it. I just can't find a replay of it. But I don't think at this moment that's necessarily a strength of JB. Or anything we've seen from them in the last 4 years.
This is 2 games in a row where.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the Dallas game.
Yeah, the Dallas game, it was like, dude.
It will get exposed quickly. If
In
you
the
can't,
playoffs, yeah.
it'll get exposed very quickly.
I'm praying that this is trial and error right now.
Yeah.
This is the time to do it, by the way.
That's what I'm saying.
This is
is trial
exactly when
and
you should
error
be
right
trying to
now.
hire things, yeah.
I'm trying to think which sport the head coach / manager has the biggest impact on the game, and it might be NBA. I think it's NBA. I mean, manager with bullpen usage and knowing when to go get a guy is obviously huge.
I feel like play
That's
calling in
awful
football
impactful.
is.
Play calling, but the head coach isn't always the play caller. So I just think I don't know. I don't know. NBA with the ATOs, with what we're talking about, when you see a team, you think you know what they're going to do, but when you see them in game one, and now you've got the film of game one, and now you have to figure out how to stop what they were doing in game one and come back for game two, that's all on the head coach.
Yeah.
So it's just, in the regular season, it's not as impactful, especially managers in baseball. Managing the bullpen is the biggest thing in the regular season. Head coach in the NBA, a lot of teams don't even take the regular season seriously. But in the postseason, man, these guys matter.
Who was he? He was under who with the Grizzlies? Isn't he assistant head coach?
Biggerstaff?
Yeah.
He's bounced around. He was in Houston. He was in Memphis.
Like, who was he under?
I think he was under. Was he under Yeager in Memphis?
I'll tell you.
Houston, he was under
Could he-
McHale. He replaced Kevin McHale in Houston.
Okay, that's solid.
When Houston fired McHale, he took over as the interim. I feel like in Memphis it was Dave Yeager.
Yeager was the coach in Memphis from 13 to 16.
Okay, so maybe not, because JB just came to Cleveland from Memphis, so he would have been in
I'm just
Memphis
trying to
later
see
than
who
that.
he learned under.
Well, his dad.
His dad, his dad was a longtime coach.
He
too.
was in Memphis after Yeager.
After Yeager. I don't remember who the coach was in Memphis after
Was
Yeager.
it Taylor
Yes,
Jenkins?
Yes, that's who it was.
Taylor
I don't even know
It
who
was
Jenkins?
that
Taylor
is.
Jenkins.
He's still the current coach, isn't he? He's still there, isn't he?
No, is he? Well, then it wasn't him.
No, so Jenkins got hired in 2019. So there's a 2-year stretch of Memphis Grizzlies coaches between.
Well, was that? I don't know.
Who's in between?
I don't know.
All right, well, thank God for Google.
I asked
And then we'll
the
move
tough
on. And here, you
questions.
do a read, and I'll find out who was the coach between
I got
Dave
you,
Yeager
Mike.
and
I
Taylor
got you.
Jenkins
Hold on.
in Memphis.
All right, so while Mike does that little bit of research, I just want to remind everybody that Earl's doing the Ultimate 216 tonight. We're not doing our final Black History Month highlight during today's show because Earl is doing it later on Ultimate 216. So you can catch Ultimate 216 premiering at 5 o'clock on the YouTube channel.
Got it.
All here on UCSS. Go check out Earl's 216. It's sports, culture, everything in between, and he does a great job doing it.
You guys ready for the answer? David Fizdale.
I should have known that.
Bad job out of us. I knew that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot.
Fizz is a good dude. He's a really good dude.
Fizz.
Totally forgot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then JB was the coach for,
That's one of the
for
Browns
2 years
guys.
there.
Fizdale.
Yeah. And he's now with the.
Where is he? I don't even know where he is now.
He's with the Lakers, isn't he?
No, is he?
No.
He's the Suns' assistant. He was with the Lakers the last 2 years. Now he's with the Suns.
Yeah, he's definitely a LeBron guy.
he's
Fizz is a
gonna
good coach.
He's
And there's your
gonna be the-
daily David Fizdale update on the Ultimate Cleveland
Yeah,
Sports
right.
Show. We'll make
He's
that a
gonna be
daily
the
segment.
next Mike
Thanks,
Brown.
Google.
And what do we got next?
All right, so guys, we're going to get into football here, and to drag us into football, I wanted to do the NFL ESPN tiers because they both came out within like a week of each other. So we're going to start that off. Mike, do you want to run through the list, or do you want me to run you guys?
How about you run through it? How about you?
All right, so we're going to start here with the major contenders first up. It's the Lions, the Ravens, the 49ers, and the Chiefs. The next is they need a breakthrough in the playoffs. That's going to be Dallas, Bills, and the Dolphins. I didn't hear Tyvis. All right. Next is teetering contenders. You've got Bengals and the Eagles.
Okay.
Next is on the right track. This is where we land with the Rams, Browns, Buccaneers, Texans, Jaguars, and Packers. You've got stuck in the middle with the Seahawks, Colts, and Vikings. In QB purgatory with Denver, Atlanta, the Steelers, Washington, and the Patriots. It could go either way. Is the Saints and the Jets, a new coach with the Raiders and the Chargers. Rebuilding is the Panthers and the Titans. and then still rebuilding are the Bears, Cardinals, and Giants. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, so
That's
ESPN,
a lot of tiers.
ESPN did 10 tiers for this. They did all 32 teams for NFL. They only did the
That's
playoff
ridiculous.
teams for the NBA. But essentially, we could erase the bottom couple categories for the Browns. The main ones we want to focus on are, I guess, teetering contenders, headed in the right direction, need a postseason breakthrough, or stuck in the middle. Or I guess if you really want to put them in QB purgatory, I guess that's up to you. I'm not going to do that. But do you think the Browns are placed properly in the headed in the right direction category?
I
Jason?
stopped listening after where I saw the Cowboys because they're way too high.
I said that's why
Cowboys
I
are
laughed.
way too high, too. Yeah.
That's why I laughed.
Way too high.
Like, y'all
Well, but the
kept
name
that
of the
out.
category is need a postseason breakthrough, which is accurate. But I think you could say that about 31 teams in the NFL
Yeah.
outside of Kansas City.
Yeah.
So
I would
think it's
say-
a poorly named category.
I would say the Browns is in the right category, right track. I mean, if they would have won a playoff game, maybe you could put them in the teetering contenders.
I mean, they got the Texans. Texans beat them, and they're in the same category there.
but
We forget, though, the Texans were not a great regular season team. Like, they barely snuck into the postseason. They needed Jacksonville to lose to
lose.
Tennessee to get
Yeah,
in. So
yeah.
I don't want to put too much stock into one playoff win.
Yeah.
We had D'Anthony Bell on the show yesterday. By the way, if you missed the interview with D'Anthony Bell, I highly recommend you go back and watch. He stayed with us for an hour, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Came in, hung out.
great dude. It was essentially just like if we were sitting in the locker room talking.
It was
That's-
awesome.
that's
He,
exactly
he
what
was
it
phenomenal. I highly, highly recommend it. Great guy, great insight, was honest, open. He was making fun of G. Bush. Like, it was awesome.
And G
highly,
stood
highly-
back and let him do it.
Yeah.
I had to step in for G like, hey.
He got so comfortable with us that we showed him the bonk montage that we're going to play next week when Bull's back after the show. So he was awesome. Highly, highly recommend. But as he said yesterday, we picked a terrible day to play our worst game.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hold one win in that high of regard for the Texans.
Yeah.
I'm also not going to crucify the Browns and hold it against them in this kind of ranking after one bad game. So
Yeah.
just want to put that into context for everybody.
Yeah, no, I think that the Browns are probably in the right spot. I truly did stop listening for a minute because I couldn't believe the Cowboys were that high. But the Browns, you think they're on the right track. You hope they're on the right track. I think they got a long ways to go to catch some teams at top in front of them, and we'll see if rebuilding the offense does that or not. I have my doubts, but we'll see.
Wait, rebuilding what offense? The Browns?
The Browns, yeah,
Build from the ground up. I'm not even sure it's a rebuild. It's a start over.
yeah.
What? Well,
It's a complete deconstruction.
that's because I don't know what it is going to look like.
Right.
Well, that's why it's a reconstruction.
Yeah. Like because you coming into the season last year, you was like, at worst, we can still run the ball. But Nick Chubb is, we don't know what we're going to get from Nick Chubb. And you got all these offensive linemen that you got to, it's I don't know.
Maybe to me, it's blind optimism and hope, but I actually think the Browns are one category too low here. And I'm going to use Jason Lloyd and something he said on our show in January as a kind of reason to why they're actually one category too low. With Joe Flacco at quarterback last season, to enter the playoffs we did on our Friday WKYC show, who's going to make the Super Bowl? And the man to my right
Never gonna let me
picked
forget that.
Joe Flacco and the Cleveland
Never gonna
Browns
let me live that down.
to reach a Super Bowl. So, in theory, they're going to make some ancillary moves that they may get better. They may get worse in free agency. I would expect them to get better because Andrew Berry's a wizard at bringing guys in that fit their system. In theory, Deshaun Watson should be a major upgrade over Joe Flacco at quarterback. And you would think and you would hope that with all this collection of different philosophies coming together in the offensive room, regardless of who's calling plays, they'll be able to get more out of Deshaun Watson than we've seen up to this point in a Browns uniform. And if you look at the roster as a whole, if you felt comfortable they might be a Super Bowl contender last season with Joe Flacco, and you think, and I don't want to put this on you, I think Deshaun Watson will be an upgrade over Joe Flacco this upcoming season.
He better be.
And also, yes, he better be, but I don't know how they'd be on the right track and not on a teetering contender. I thought they were a teetering contender last season, despite the quarterback carousel they had to deal with. And now with a healthy Deshaun Watson, hopefully,
Who were the
I think
teams?
it puts them in the same category with Philadelphia and Cincinnati.
Yeah. Who were those teams?
Just Philadelphia and Cincinnati. Just those two. I don't think they're necessarily a tier higher than the Cleveland Browns heading into 2024.
I think I don't know that I can put them in the same. The Eagles totally unraveled last year, though.
They did.
But the Bengals with Burrow, I don't know that you can put the Browns in that category. I don't know.
What? Why not? Why not? The only reason that they're there is because they went to the Super Bowl.
Okay, that's a pretty good reason.
But their defense is not
Browns
the same.
didn't win a playoff game.
But the defense
And that's why I said they in the right spot. When
the defense that made it to the Super Bowl in Cincinnati is not the same defense.
Yes, fair. But until, I mean, Listen, we need Deshaun to be healthy. He's got to play well, and then we'll see. But I would not put the Browns in the same category as the Bengals. If you guys want to, by all means, go ahead. I don't think they've earned that yet.
Well, if we're going to say this.
How can you say such a thing and the Bengals can't beat the Browns?
In the regular season.
They
But
haven't
they've been to a
played
Super
They haven't
Bowl.
played in them
They've been to a
because
Super
they
Bowl.
had to play the Browns.
Oh, that's why?
Yeah.
That's why?
It's a fact. What? It's a fact. Am I wrong? The Browns beat the Bengals dang near all the time.
So if the Bengals are fully healthy, Burrow's fully healthy, and they're fully loaded and ready to go, and the Browns are fully healthy, fully loaded, and fully ready to go, you think the Browns are going to beat the Bengals in a playoff game and go to the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
I disagree.
Where's the game being played?
In Ohio?
Cop-out answer.
At Tom Benson
answer.
Stadium, split the difference. Well, even if you want to say that two teams should be in the teetering
I mean,
contender
it's
category,
close. It's
I'd put
close.
them above Philadelphia at this point. I mean, because Philadelphia, you're taking a lot of bets and a lot of gambles on a defense that was horrendous last season.
They unraveled last year.
Completely unraveled. They brought
what
an
happens
entire
when
new
Matt
defensive
Patricia
staff,
runs
entire new
things.
offensive staff. You have to still believe in Jalen Hurts to the capacity that he's an MVP candidate. Last season, he was not. I mean, they have more weapons on the outside for sure, but that's an aging team that I think had their window and it's on the decline as opposed to the Browns, who theoretically, with the integration of a healthy Deshaun Watson and a healthy Nick Chubb next season, to whatever capacity Chubb comes back, are on the way up as opposed to Philadelphia on the way down.
I don't know if the Browns. I think the Browns. I wouldn't say the Browns are on their way up. These guys are like, they are who they are.
Who?
Nick Chubb is who he is. Miles Garrett is who he is. It's a really good team, but this isn't a young team that's going to get better and better and better. Like they
But
are who they are.
from last season, if this is where they were last season,
Yeah.
with at the end of the year, you have Jerome Ford, whatever Nick Chubb comes back. Do you think Nick Chubb in any capacity this season would be better than Jerome
Oh,
Ford?
for
last
sure.
year?
Of
Okay,
course.
so that's an upgrade offensively. Deshaun Watson versus Joe Flacco, that's a big question mark, granted. But you would think and you would hope Deshaun Watson is an upgrade at the quarterback position. You
better
look at the
be.
receiver room, I just refuse to believe Andrew Berry will not make some sort of necessary and legitimate improvement to that group.
But
So
they
I think the
like
offense is on
that
the way up.
room.
Once again, you can't believe Andrew Berry. And I'm not saying he's a bad person, but he's paid to lie to us.
He's paid to
That's it.
lie to us.
That's literally part of his job.
You think he lies?
When he says we're happy with the wide receiver room, yes, that's a lie.
They were talking up Elijah Moore in Indianapolis.
Again?
Career year.
Oh, stop it.
I'm just telling you.
Stop it. Who?
Telling
I
you.
was a year early. Yes.
No, they were saying last year was a career
We
year
are
for him.
back, baby. That's right. I said it last year. Elijah Moore going to be the X Factor. And he was trending that way. He got hurt.
He was what?
He got hurt.
He was what?
He got hurt. Did he not get a concussion?
So you're saying he was the X factor of their offense last season?
He would have been.
If not for that concussion.
Why?
Well, for the first 16 weeks of the season.
He took him off. He was saving.
He was saving himself for the postseason.
Yeah,
and the concussion happened. Okay.
yeah, that's right.
I'll buy that.
He Y'all sick. Y'all sick. No,
He was fine last. He was a perfect number 3 last year. They needed a number 2.
After the Joku, you put him after the Joku.
I'm taking tight ends out of the equation, just for as far as receiver goes. Amar's a legit one.
Wait a minute, because in closing minutes of games, who was the person that they tried to get the ball?
Oh no, Njoku's phenomenal. He's a
I ain't
top,
talking
top
about-
5, 6.
He's talking about the receiver.
I'm talking
room.
just the receiver.
I
room.
am too.
Yeah.
In closing minutes, who was open and they couldn't get the ball to
What
him? Number
play are you talking
8.
about?
Number
What
8.
play are you talking about here?
Let's see. San Francisco game, they tried to get it to him. They
Oh, who was
skipped
the
ball.
quarterback in that San Francisco game?
Phillip.
Oh, he was open and couldn't get the ball to him.
What was the final score of that game?
Jake Moody missed a kick.
What was the final score of that game?
1917, offensive explosion.
Okay, just
Walker.
What's
Never
his,
mind.
what was his record?
You are not pulling me into this hole.
What was
I-
his record again?
It does. Whenever Tyvus is on the show, and I love Tyvus, somehow we get into a PJ Walker
are
debate.
not-
No matter how it starts, we get
You
into a
are
PJ
not
Walker
pulling me
debate.
into this hole.
But do
Jason,
you think
what was his
Elijah Moore?
record?
Tyvus, let me ask you this.
Is he not a winner?
You are not pulling me.
Let me
into
ask you this, Tyvus. Honest answer. Is Elijah Moore a legitimate 2 in the NFL? And don't tell me David Njoku. This is just receiving room. Is Elijah Moore number 2, or do the Browns need to upgrade their number 2 wide receiver position this offseason?
Given what he did last season, no, he was not a number 2 last season. So, if that's the case, the Browns should be looking to go get a number 2 that could potentially become a number 1.
Yes.
And Elijah Moore will be pretty good off of that. He'll be a great number 3 for this upcoming season.
I agree with that.
Perfect,
I think he'd be a good number 3.
If he's your number
He's a
3,
fine
I
number
think
3.
and you then said your Tillman slot.
But he'll end up
4.
becoming the number 2.
Although I don't know if you trade a number 2 draft pick for a number 3 receiver. That sounds a little backwards.
Well, he didn't live up to. He did not live up
There's
to
a
what
pick
his
swap, first off,
expectation.
Jason.
Let's just say
Let's
that.
keep it real.
They gave up a second-round
It's a
pick.
pick swap.
They didn't.
For
He
a
didn't live
number
up to
3
his
receiver.
expectations. Would he have been? What did we give him? A second-round pick for him?
Yeah.
I need to know
It was a 42nd
Who was the
pick?
second-round receipt? Hold on. Y'all go ahead. I got to look up the second-round.
I mean,
receivers.
technically, he did have a career year last year, but that's an awfully low bar. 59 catches, 640 yards. Those are career highs. 2 touchdowns was not, but Elijah Moore did.
It was a career year.
He did have career highs in catches and yards, but certainly more was expected of him than what he
I
produced.
just need to see who.
David Bell also had a career year.
Based on one game against the Bengals.
Just saying, like that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, he would. He had a better year than Jonathan Mingo from Carolina, so that was worth it. Dang, he did not have a better year than Jaden Reed.
No.
He did not
Plus,
have
he's
a better year than Rasheed Rice.
Plus, he's a third-year dude. You're comparing him against rookies.
Marvin Mims. Yeah, I guess maybe they could have kept that second-round pick and got somebody else.
No, that's the point I've made before is where they're drafting these receivers, all the top guys are off the board. So you're the
Trying to find a needle in a haystack.
yeah,
at that
the
point.
target you're shooting at is so narrow. Like
We could have got Josh Downs.
if you
instead of
use your
Cedric
second-round pick
Tillman.
on a receiver, you give yourself a lot bigger target you're shooting at because there's a lot more out there.
And I know the Browns have other needs than receiver. And even if they sign someone in free agency, like I'm all for using that 54th pick on a receiver. We talked about it on, I guess, Tuesday about the combine.
Yeah.
And how it doesn't really matter. You know, Tyvis put it the whole soliloquy that we did at the start of the show here on it's all about your tape. What you run at the 40, what you bench press. Like, it doesn't really matter. There are like 10 to 15 really good receivers in this class. Mm-hmm. Like,
Talk about this upcoming year.
this upcoming draft where
There should be someone.
in the past, you know, at 54, you may be like, the top 4, 5, 6 guys we like are going to be gone. Well, that list may not be 4, 5, 6 this season. There's going to be 3 in the top 10. There's 8, 9, 10 guys who could be available
I think
outside of that top 3 at 54.
I think the problem
For the
becomes, like, when you're doing this scouting, I think the problem that they look at is you got to look at your wide receiver room and you'll say, what don't we have as a wide receiver? Like, what is the piece that we're missing? Is it just an explosive guy? Okay, well, then let's go. Then they're going to say, well, let's go look at the 40 times. Stuff like that. Let's go get a blazer. Do we need a big body guy? Yeah, we ain't got one of those. I think that's kind of why they drafted Cedric Tillman because they knew they were moving on from DPJ.
yeah.
So it was like, let's just get his replacement with this third-round pick. He's not that slow. He ran a 4.5, so it's like, and he had big playmaking ability. So I think when you go into this year's draft, what's the mindset? Like, what type of receiver are we looking for? Are we looking for another blazer again? Or are we looking for a guy that runs really good routes? Like, it's so many different type of wide receivers that I think that they're going to, like, essentially you want to take the best available and just use him that way. But I think right now the wide receiver room dictates the type of receiver that they want to get, if that makes sense.
And there's a lot of different options.
That's what
You got
I'm- yeah.
like in the draft, just a few names. Who knows if they'll be there at 54 or not? But Brian Thomas of LSU, Burner, great deep threat. Troy Franklin of Oregon, a guy who is big, athletic. He's like 6'3", 220, but runs a 4 or supposed to run a 4.3, 4.40. Xavier Worthy from Texas, he got a burner. Then there are other guys. Lad McConkey's not a burner. Speed guy kind of from the slot. Shifty, gets open. There's a bunch of different
So
options.
that's what I'm saying. See, are you looking for a slot?
Well, but I'm saying the Browns should have more than just, oh, we got to take the best available guy at 54 because he's the only one we like in that range left. There's enough good receivers in this draft that I anticipate a couple of those guys being available at 54, if not moving up to kind of take your pick of the litter.
Whoever is looking at it and analyzing it, they need to do a better job because they continuously keep missing. But Jason is right. You know, you talking about picking out of the third round. At that point, it was only like one difference maker, 2 difference makers at that point. And that was Puka was still there and
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
Those are the 2 that I think you could say that they missed on with where they picked.
Yeah.
But a lot of other teams missed on those guys too.
Yeah. So it's second round. You should 54th pick. It's somebody still there. But you just got to make sure it's the right one. You got to make sure, because you're really drafting. If you don't address it in free agency, you're really drafting
a starter.
Yeah, you're drafting the number 2 that's going to learn out under a coop for a year and needs to have, by the end of this season, he should be a guy that we look at like how Tank Dell was. Like, oh, look at this dude. He should be making plays like that.
Yeah.
So back to the tiers real quick. Whether they're 1 too low, 1 too high, they're right in the right range with the right teams, just to put a cap on this, right?
Yeah.
All feel like, relatively speaking, ESPN did a halfway decent job, at least with the top guys putting teams in the right spot. Ant, what's up?
Hey guys, before we move on to our next topic, I want to remind everybody that you can go get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players, teams with bets, quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much more. You guys just have to visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Tyvis, you won a parlay last night. Tell us about it.
I did. So last night, after my Cavs parlay just completely went to heck because of Jared Allen not getting 8 boards, ridiculous. Right when I was going to sleep, I said, you know what? FanDuel was offering the 50% profit boost for live same game parlays. Sounds like the Lakers game is on. Let me look at it. I seen LeBron had just did like a layup. He like brought it down here, brought it up. I said, oh,
he had an incredible fourth quarter.
I was like, I have a really good game. So I said, let me go throw together a quick parlay, and then I'm going to go to bed. So I did Anthony Davis, 20 points, Kawhi Leonard, 20 points, LeBron, 20 points, James Harden, 2 made threes, Norman Powell, my cousin, 2 made threes. He's not really my cousin. And LeBron, 3 made threes, and D'Angelo Russell, 3 made threes. So a 7-leg parlay, I put $10 on it, put the profit boost on it. I won $300 when I woke up this morning. I was like,
nothing better than waking up to a parlay that hits. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So shout out to me for just pulling a rabbit out the hat. And LeBron making 7 trades. I'll tell you what, if you playing tonight, I'm definitely taking you on the under on threes because I know you're not going to do that again.
He had a tremendous fourth quarter. I don't know if you saw, but he had 19 in the fourth.
Yeah.
Outscored the Clippers by himself in the fourth quarter. Kudos to LeBron. All right, and let's talk a little bit about the NFLPA report cards that came out yesterday. Before we dive into the individual grades, Jason, I know one of the questions we're going to ask is how much of these teams actually take into consideration the results of said report cards, and does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Stefanski was asked about it yesterday. I know you were at the presser.
Yeah.
He mentioned the fact they're going to build a new weight room, which was one of the things they got dinged on, so kudos to the Browns for listening. But do you think these matter at all in the big picture? Do the teams actually take into consideration how their players vote and use that feedback for constructive criticism and ways to get better?
Yeah, I think it matters. To what extent, how much weight they put into it, I don't know. But I think that they do look at it. I think they do take it seriously. And you don't want to grade poorly in these year after year after year after year. Like if it's a one-off, okay. But if year after year the owner's getting bad marks, the coach is getting bad marks, I'm not saying the Browns are, but I'm saying if you're one of these organizations, yeah, that's a problem because players talk. And when you're choosing free agent destinations, some of these things I've talked about, I talked to Ethan Posick about why he chose Cleveland. Strength and conditioning staff and Bill Callahan. That's why he came here, were those 2 things. He really wanted both of them. And so guys are going to look at things like the weight room. And the Browns, this isn't a 20-minute knee-jerk reaction to this. Like, they've known for a while they needed a better weight room. And this has been in the works for a while. Yeah. They just used yesterday as the opportunity to say, yes, we know, and we're addressing it, we're fixing it. They need a bigger practice facility, quite honestly.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, right?
Because when I was there, obviously I came there after Seattle, and I remember they don't even got a full 100 yards indoor.
No.
It's like 80 or 70 or something like that.
Yeah. And the weight room's in there.
And the weight room is really right outside you walk out the glass door.
Well, I mean, it's in that same construct, yeah.
But since I've been there, so I was there in 2017, I walked through the facility last year, during OTAs I was walking through the building, and they've changed it, but I agree with you. It's just too small. Yeah. Like, it's not a lot of room in there. It's not a place that I feel like you can hang out. I feel like the locker room was kind of not great.
Locker room's tight.
Yeah, it's tight.
It's not tight.
It's not a place that like you could just sit in there and just chat. Like in Seattle, it's so big. It's like a huge room where everybody's in there. You can just sit there and just talk. Like I feel like it's so confined and so tight that they got to fix those things.
We'll run through the grades in one sec, but from a player perspective, Tyvis, were these things you considered, and did you ever look at an NFLPA report card when you were making? I know you were kind of on we want you to come to us situation, not a ton of options. But would you have looked at that? Would you have looked at that if that was part of the decision-making process when you were playing in the league?
Would I have looked at the report card? No.
I mean, you probably would have talked to guys.
Yeah, I would have talked to guys.
But I'm saying, it does matter what people say about a certain situation, right?
Yeah, but I'm always the guy that I got to see it for myself. Like if I was, let's say that I was really good and I was a big-time free agent and I was going to visit these places. You know, how you treat my family, that matters. That's something that's very important to me, and I think that was on the report card,
yes.
Which they scored not good. I think it was like a D-. The
Browns got a D- on that.
Which is crazy because Shelby Harris said that one of the reasons he decided to come here is because they treated his wife with so much respect and so much class, so he respected that. But that's neither here nor there.
But some of that also is like, what's the family room situation? And I don't know with the Browns. What's the family room situation in the stadium?
Yeah.
What setup do you have for the kids?
Daycare was something they asked about.
Right. So
that's fair.
That goes into how you treat the family.
The Browns, according to this, they are one of 12 teams that do not provide their players with families with a family room at the stadium.
Oh, and I saw
that's a big problem.
In the report card too, they said the post-game family room is outside. And
yes, it's a tent in a parking lot.
Oh, that's horrible.
That's bad.
That's horrible.
Yeah, that's really bad.
So, a couple big picture takeaways I had from this. And I kind of actually do have a little bit of an issue with how they put out these grades. And we'll run through all the grades in one sec, but I do have a little bit of an issue of how the NFLPA just kind of slaps these report cards out there without giving the proper context to each grade. So, first and foremost, with the facilities, the Browns scored poorly in the locker room section. They said it's too small. It's outdated. They said the weight room was too small. Outdated.
It is.
Stefanski comes out yesterday, says they're going to build a new weight room. Well, I love to hear that they're listening and they know those upgrades are necessary. They're going to make them, but that all points to the bigger picture of why Jimmy wants a new stadium. Like that kind of is all encompassing with.
Well, these are two different issues. The stadium is different from the practice facility. Like,
they talk about the weight room just in the stadium, but it's all tied together, right?
Unless they're moving. Unless when he builds a stadium, he's building a practice facility
on that lot
outside.
they'd have the practice facility there.
Because when I played in Seattle, the practice facility and the stadium was two different places. But if I played in San Francisco,
they're all together.
It's all together. Your locker room, your game day locker room is your practice locker room. So if they're moving to that, okay, then you got to build a new weight room and all of that.
I was under the assumption that if they moved to Brook Park, it'd all be one encompassing.
But it's like it's like right there. The practice facility.
The practice facility is very close
to Brook Park.
It's very. I mean, it's not. You can't use the same locker room, obviously.
No, but it's literally like right up the street.
That's actually a good question that I don't have the answer to. If they would just move everything to the stadium, or if they would keep them, because Jimmy bought up a bunch of land around the facility.
That's why I was under the assumption.
Yeah,
I thought he was doing it to build it up, like put restaurants and hotels.
Well, that's part of it too.
Well, no, we're talking two different things. Restaurants and hotels around the practice facility in Berea?
No, around the stadium.
Yes.
Well, that's a big plot of land. That's plenty big enough for a new stadium, a practice facility, and hotels, restaurants, bars, and all that. That's a big plot of land, Travis.
It's my impression. I've not heard anything about a practice facility going there. I thought that was going to be a stadium and all mixed use development around it.
The practice facility is literally 5 minutes from there.
Right. Yeah. It's very, very close. But to your point, if you want it all in one,
you could do that.
You could do that, but right now it's not all in one if it's 5 minutes away. Yeah. Like it's 5 minutes, but that's still 5 minutes. It's still the car ride and everything else. So I have not heard anything about a practice facility on that land in Brook Park. I thought that was just a stadium and mixed use. They have so much land that they've bought up and they're just sitting on in Berea around the current facility that they're still trying to figure out what exactly to do with. That I could be wrong, but I thought that they were going to rebuild that in Berea, make that a nice practice facility, and then obviously the Brook Park thing is totally separate. That may not ever even happen.
Well, you know better than I do, so I'm not going to. I just assumed with that much.
I don't know. I don't have the answer.
I never thought about that. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the next question you ask. But the other issue I have, and this is kind of my real issue with how the NFLPA presented these grades, is they just put out the report card, and it says head coach for the Browns, B-. 28th in the league. And I asked DeAnthony Bell to his face yesterday. I guess I was behind the glass, but, hey, DeAnthony, this just came out. Kevin Stefanski got a B- in terms of his grade. Everyone we talk to seems to love Kevin Stefanski, and he was surprised. He said, I'm surprised.
Yeah, he was shocked.
Well, it turns out, if you read into it, the question they ask about a head coach is your head coach efficient with his time, and is he willing to listen to the locker room?
Yeah.
Well, when you just slap a B- on a Twitter graphic and put 28th out of 32, how the hell am I supposed to know those were the two questions that the players were asked? And Kevin Stefanski, in my opinion, is a terrific head coach. He's a two-time coach of the year in his 4 years as the Browns head coach. You can argue it's a player vote, who likes him, who doesn't. I know that that's the players voting on this B- grade. But you got to put some context to it, because if you just see a B-, when I asked Anthony Bell yesterday, I was under the assumption, is he a good head coach? Do you like your head coach?
Well, you definitely.
And that is not what the actual questions were. And now I feel like kind of an asshole for asking D'Anthony Bell to talk about something that was completely irrelevant to what was the point.
Well,
and the NFLPA just puts it out. B-.
He
28th out
answered
of
the
32.
question, though. You said, what was the two questions that they asked? Is he
efficient with his time, and does he listen in the locker room?
Well, he answered the second one because he said he's a player's coach.
Well, he said he was shocked by the result.
Yeah, he said, I don't see why anybody would say that. He's a player's coach. He listens to what we have to say.
So my point is, when you put these out there, it's doing a disservice to what you're actually asking, just to slap a B- next to Kevin Stefanski.
It's ridiculous that a B- is 28th.
Well, it just shows that every player is voting an A for their head coach, essentially.
Pretty much. Well,
but put some context to it.
Nobody want to put no job on the line.
Well, I mean, this is anonymous.
Whatever.
I was surprised when I saw the B-, and especially if that's the criteria. Some guys it's lip service when they say this stuff. I believe Kevin means it when he says he's got his locker room down on the players' level and doors always open. He said it again yesterday. Doors always open. He very much believes in this leadership council that he's assembled with these guys. Of hey, if there's an issue, let me know. Bring it to me. Take it to he meets with these guys on the leadership committee. I don't know how often it is, but fairly frequently, and he wants to know if there's issues. So if the things that you want to ding Kevin for, I don't know that not being available to the players or, not being approachable or however they phrased it, I would not have that on the list.
The time thing is crazy because
it's curious.
It's they literally be by, like we got this much practices from this to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's it. Because the NFLPA going to come out there and it's like, well, you better be getting off the field.
Well, I guess my big issue, though, is I had to do some not legit digging, but you have to physically click on the article, scroll down to said section, find out the questions asked, and see how they graded.
Yeah. Well,
but they don't put that on the report card. They just put B- 28th, and that feels like it's a shot against Stefanski, but when you actually read into it, it has nothing to do with his coaching ability.
Let me see that graphic again.
Do you want all the grades? And let's run through all the grades real quick.
We'll run through all the grades real quick, but just to your point here, Mike, it says only 70% of players feel that head coach Kevin Stefanski is efficient with their time. And then it goes to say players feel that he is somewhat willing to listen to the locker room, but it doesn't give a number of players that say he's willing to listen. So I don't know what they're going on here. Even their own context doesn't seem to be consistent across it. But we'll go over We'll start with
it just feels like dumb criteria to judge a head coach when there's so many aspects. How about beating San Francisco with P.J. Walker?
Yeah.
Where does that factor into the grade?
Well, he was actually asked yesterday what's more important to him, getting a B-.
Wait a minute. What is that supposed to mean?
That it's a kudo to Kevin Stefanski. It's a notch in his belt.
Why, PJ? You talking about that winner? PJ
Don't let him do it. Don't let him pull you into that hole.
What about him?
P.J. Walker led a great fourth quarter game-winning drive that game. He was great. He was 0 for 5, and they got the points.
Don't do it. Don't let him pull you into that hole.
Did he win the game?
Don't let him do it.
I just said they won. He was great on that fourth quarter drive.
That's at the end of the day,
Me and him are the same.
Go ahead with your point. I couldn't let him pass.
I know.
I didn't like
I said it.
He won it with P.J. Walker. What's that supposed to mean?
That P.J. hole. That's where you live.
Go ahead.
Kevin was asked yesterday what is more important to him, winning Coach of the Year for the second time or getting a B- on the report card, and he wisely said no comment. But I'll tell you which one's more important to him. That Coach of the Year is going to add some extra zeros to that next contract. That's way more important than that player report card. So his price tag is going up.
And let's talk about the rest of the grades here. In terms of, and I'm reading off my phone, I apologize, but treatment of facilities, they got a D- that was 26th in the NFL. Food, I don't have my glasses on. Food and cafeteria, C+.
This one gets me.
And you read through it, yeah.
All right, so treatment of families is a D-. Food and cafeteria is a C+.
Right there. Stop. That gets me.
Because you've been there.
Because I've been there. And to be honest with you, when I do the radio, I still eat there sometimes too. Now, I will say the cafeteria is not big. It's not a big cafeteria. But that food.
They ranked 19th.
That
in
food is
food
good.
taste.
I don't know who the dude on the grill. I remember as a player, I would come in. Whoever they had on the grill back in 2017 was a magician. The dude made some phenomenal food. The food has always been good at the facility. Now at the games, Jason.
Well,
would you like to comment on the media dinners?
I don't want to talk about that. That's a different story. But the food at the facility is
Is
As
it
it should be.
legitimate difference, Tavis, in your different stops, the quality of food from San Francisco to Seattle, from Seattle to Cleveland? Like, is there an actual difference, or is it all the same? Just different flavors and stuff.
Well, hold on. Seattle had one of the best sandwich makers I've ever had. This man made this tuna melt. I think about it to this day. It is that good. San Francisco, they have a plethora of stuff you can order. Like they have the catered meal, but you can always go to the grill and order something. So that always made that good. What I liked about Cleveland is that I was only here for OTAs, so let me take that.
You were still a Brown.
Yeah, I was there for OTAs. I like to be real with the audience. I was there for OTAs. That's it, okay? And that time, I was leaving Seattle, but I loved the food at the Cleveland Browns more than I like Seattle's food.
Wow.
Like I thought
Except the tuna melt.
Except the tuna melt, because they didn't make tuna melts at the Browns. But the Browns, the dude on the grill, like he made some really good, like it was like the cater or the team meal that they made that everybody had to eat, or if you didn't want that, you can go to the grill. Like I like the option that they had better than what they had in Seattle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Seattle would be, like say they made, I don't know, salads or something, but the Browns made chicken and waffles. Like obviously I want the chicken and waffles.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like I like the options that they had better.
So it was a good cafeteria.
Yeah, the cafeteria was good.
And let's go through the rest of the grades.
Real quick, just 49ers were A- in food, and then Seahawks.
I didn't say nothing about the 49ers. Was great. That dude made this bison burger over there. Man, I tell you, boy.
Was it all free?
Heck yeah! What's wrong with you?
If you read the report, there's some teams that charge.
For the players?
Yeah.
Well, they got Fs. They got Fs then.
Now,
Cincinnati.
in
Cincinnati
San Francisco, if you was like worked in the front office, you had to pay. But players, free. Oh my God.
Cincinnati charged according to the report.
That's crazy. That's why Chad Johnson went to McDonald's all the time.
Broke ass Bengals franchise.
Yeah, the Bengals got F- in treatment of families, food and cafeteria, and nutritionists.
God.
They got a D+ in locker room, and then they got a B+ across the rest of everything else.
Yeah. All right, and let's go to the rest of the
All right,
grades.
so next up we got nutritionists and dietitians. It was a C+, and then team travel was a D for us. So that pretty much covers everything is like a player.
One of the team travel things I wanted to point out was that they said certain players, based on your status, like starter versus not, like you may have to have a roommate.
Yes.
You have to pay if you didn't want to have a roommate on the road for certain players.
So there's
which was not super uncommon, by the way.
There's 67% of players that felt like they had a comfortable amount of personal space during the flights, which was 26th overall. And then there are one of 7 teams that require some players to have roommates the night before a game.
No player should have to have a roommate. That's ridiculous. They don't even make us bunk up.
I'm trying to think about
like
that
with
right
the
now.
same company, like the Athletic. If we've got 20 people there, nobody's shacking up.
That's
like, everybody
funny
gets their
because
own.
I don't think I had a roommate either.
At no point, guys, these are 8
Yeah,
games.
I did
we're
not.
talking about.
I never
8
had
or
a
9
roommate.
games. Like NBA guys don't share rooms. That's 41 road games. Like
Baseball players?
But it's
probably not.
only 12 people
what are you talking about?
in the NBA.
Well, yeah.
Opposed to
Okay,
a
but
travel team was
But there's
63, 65 people.
only 8 or 9 road games. Like it's not like it's a ton of road games.
Listen, you're pretty sure quiet. I didn't have a roommate.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I never had a roommate.
These guys should not be having.
Depending on my status.
no NFL team.
Depending on my status, I feel like I may have had a roommate once.
If you made the travel roster, you
But
should
what's that
not
in
have
the
to share. a room.
preseason?
I do agree with that. Like,
No, that was in the preseason. I didn't have a regular season. I never had a roommate. Yeah, I didn't have a roommate.
this is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. Y'all could afford an extra hotel room or two. Like, I think that should be a non-negotiable. They said 7 teams. The Browns are one of 7.
Yes, they're one of 7.
That number should be 0. And I actually feel pretty steadfast, and I don't think I'll ever budge on that. But that should be 0.
The Browns they cut budgets at certain places. They can't afford.
What should it be in terms of hotel rooms on
I
the
can't
road?
even get direct deposit, Mike. I can't even get direct deposit. What are you talking about?
That's another issue. And what are the next grades?
The next grades, we're going back to locker room was a D+, which we already mentioned that it was way too small. Training room got a C+, training staff got a B-, weight room got a D, and then the strength coaches got a B+. So it seems like we have the personnel, but not the facilities.
Here's the problem with that. Cleveland is not a free agent destination in any sport, especially given the Browns' history over the last 20 years. You have to go over and above on all of these things to just give yourself a chance when it comes to attracting and retaining top players. Like, you're not going to sell them on the climate. The weather, it is what it is. You can't change the 20 years of dysfunction, but you have to really go over the top. Agree or disagree?
I agree with you.
And everything else.
You got to make the facilities and everything just so nice.
The stuff that you can control has to be over the top.
Think about this. A free agent, Cleveland, like you said, Cleveland isn't a place that people are like, let's go to Cleveland.
People get so mad when I say that.
Because Joakim Noah said it, and that was let's go to Cleveland.
It's not like Guardians face it, Browns face it, Cavs face it. Well, it is not a free agent destination in any sport.
It's not. But what people find out is when you come to Cleveland, you actually have a good time. But as far as the facilities go, the way you can help a free agent come is you spend the majority of your time here anyways.
Yeah.
So at least make it a place that got lots of stuff that you could do. Like make the place big, make it the locker room bigger, because that's where people want to hang out with. That's where you hear all the stories at, in the locker room. Man, get some more games in there, ping pong tables, all these things. Make sure the weight room is good. Make sure the practice facility is good. Like I don't see why you wouldn't. You're literally behind on these things because, like I said, if this was LA, you wouldn't have to do all those things. But in the city of Cleveland, you have to do those things because it's not an attractive place.
And it's not just on the NFL level. Like, to go to college for a second, I can speak to A&M, putting almost $1 billion into upgrading facilities that aren't that old. Yeah. LSU just completely redid their football locker rooms. Ohio State.
We redid ours, but they need to do it again.
I mean,
every couple of years, because it just continually, the ante's being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And you talk to recruits.
To be honest with you, the Woody needs to they need to redo the whole Woody, to be honest with you.
Is that supposed to be open to the public, or did we break in?
What's your mom?
The Woody, like where all the trophies are displayed, because that's
open to the public.
Okay, because I took my son in there.
Well, so you should have called me. I'd have came and put my thumbprint on it. We could have walked the whole. Well, my thumbprint still works.
I haven't been in there.
Yeah,
I haven't been in there since I covered that team, and that was well before you were there. I stopped covering them in 2008.
You should have. I would have thumbprinted, told you to walk all the way down, halfway down the hall, look to the right where it's the team up north, and just watch that TV, and you'll hear them say, Tyvis Powell saves the season.
But Ty, with your collective stuff, like facilities do matter to these recruits. And I know a recruit and a free agent aren't apples to apples, but you're essentially selling.
It is. It is apples to apples these days.
Apples to pears.
It's
a fruit basket.
Recruits are free agents anymore.
But you get what I'm saying. Like these facilities do make a difference, and we talked to enough kids. I was covering them in high school back in Texas and Tennessee. Like, oh, why'd you pick this school over this school? Well, this was pre-NIL, and now I'm sure NIL money plays more of a factor, but playing time and their facilities blew us away. It was incredible how nice. They had recliner chairs in the locker. They had nap pods. They have video game stations hooked up. Like, it is incredible now how much these colleges are spending on facilities, and I'm actually surprised on the professional level.
That they're not?
Yeah, even with the Cavs. I'm not sure, Jason, I've only been in 2 NBA locker rooms, but I went in on Tuesday for the first time.
You wasn't impressed?
It just wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be.
Well, they redid it a few years ago, and they've got the player lounge.
Is that next?
Yes.
Okay,
so that's where they hide now from us. They have the player lounge and all that, where they have all the. So now they didn't have that before. That's since 2018.
When I went in Boston's locker room, it was all one room, which is why
Boston.
Yeah.
Boston doesn't have that, I don't think. But the Cavs, when they redid the Q 4 or 5 years ago, they redid. They redid the whole underneath so that they've got this really nice player lounge now and cafeteria style dining room or whatever. It's pretty nice down there. They've done a really nice job. That building, it is what it is, and it's still on the lower end of NBA arenas, but they've done a nice job with the remodel down there, trying to do the best they can to maximize every inch that they can. So the Cavs have done a nice job of that. And now the Guardians are running into that. The Guardians are trying to renovate, and the construction costs are so outrageous. They keep having to pull things out of their remodel that they're going through right now. So
I'm just surprised. I know it's going up and up and up on the collegiate ranks. I'm just surprised that same thing hasn't followed.
But I thought they did
ranks.
Because when I went to the building, they was renovating something.
Guardians or Browns?
The Browns. This was like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
The practice facility?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done
What did they do?
Offices. I think, offices and front-facing stuff.
Look at his face.
I think.
Tyler's camera 3. Come on, you know you can.
But in terms of like the indoor practice facility, like I think they're kind of hamstrung right now. They can't really make that or they would have already.
They can't make it bigger. It kind of is what it is.
Yeah,
right?
I mean they've bought the land, but they would have to like level it and redo the whole thing. I think.
Why did they get rid of the hill outside?
I don't know. That's a good question. It was the
When
Belichick hill.
When I was a kid and I used to come up here to go watch practice and stuff.
I thought it was still there. They get rid of it.
The hill? They don't make them.
The Belichick conditioning hill?
Yeah. I don't think
They
it's
can
not.
probably use the one over at BW Stadium. It's the same thing.
That hill used to make me laugh because I used to watch players have to go up and down it.
That was the day one conditioning test, wasn't it?
I'm not 100% sure. But
I think.
That hill was steep.
But I think that they do have things in the work. I know they want a new indoor 100-yard facility. They're just kind of cramped or hamstrung, right? I mean, these facilities are 30 years old, or more. I don't even know what year they opened that thing in Berea. I think when they came back in '99.
Maybe
when it opened.
Maybe they
Almost
are
30.
going. Maybe they are moving everything to the stadium.
I'll check into it.
Because if that's the case, if they kind of hampered and can't really extend it and do all that,
Might as well move it.
might as well move it.
I mean, he bought all that land up, but now they're just sitting on it. They haven't really done anything with it. In Berea. I'm talking Berea.
Berea. Jimmy also, and what was Jimmy's ownership grade, real quick?
Ownership grade was a B. Club owner Jimmy Haslam received a rating of 8.6 out of 10 by Browns players when considering his willingness to invest in the facilities. 17th overall.
So right dead smack in the middle. It's funny when you see the big picture of these. The Miami Dolphins got A's in every category. Either A-, A, or A+. They're, middle of the pack? Like, they're decent, okay, not great by any means.
But it's in Miami though.
But I'm just saying, like, you see a team that get all A's across this, they're okay. The Chiefs.
What did Kansas City get?
Chiefs got an F- for ownership.
It's unbelievable. Brooke Pryor put out a tweet.
Really?
Did you see the Brooke Pryor tweet
I'm not sure what Brooke said, no, but
about the Chiefs and why they?
Is Brooke Pryor the Steelers?
Steelers reporter,
She does the Steelers, but she came from Kansas City. She covered the Chiefs prior to.
at the end of the day, while Jason's looking for this, it comes down to your quarterback and your head coach.
Yeah, but
All this report card stuff is cool and it's fun to talk about in the middle of
the
December.
Chiefs got an
F-.
Here it is.
So absolutely worst you can get.
J.C. Treader, NFLPA president, says Chiefs owner Clark Hunt was lowest graded NFL owner because there was a lack of follow-through on promises. For example, this is from Treader, the team was promised a renovated locker room when they returned this season after winning the Super Bowl last year. So coming into this season, they were going to have a renovated locker room, except only new chairs were added. The players were told they, quote, went too far in the playoffs and they didn't have time to renovate. So if the Chiefs weren't so good, if they'd stop winning damn Super Bowls, maybe they'd have some time in Kansas City to renovate some things.
So the teams that scored high didn't necessarily translate to on-field success.
That's according to Treader.
Teams that graded low,
I see why
obviously did
Legarius
well.
Sneed said, I'm about to get a trade up out of here, man.
Yeah. It's something to keep an eye on. And you said somebody had on the Chiefs?
Oh, yeah, if you guys wanted, their owner, Clark Hunt, got a 4.9 out of 10 in willingness to invest. Their training staff also had an F. Their training room got a D. Their locker room got an F. And their nutrition dietitian got an F. Food got a C-. And then the treatment of the families got a D+.
Yeah.
They do provide a family room and daycare across the street on game day.
So like I was saying, you got Miami, who has all A's across the board, first-round exit. You have Kansas City, who couldn't pass the third grade with those grades, and they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. So at the end of the day, the conclusion we can come to is if you have Patrick Mahomes, nothing else matters, right?
A little caveat to the family things on Kansas City, though. They said the players just want it not to be across the street for daycare. They want it on the facility. So that's nitpicking, probably, in their voting.
Well, it doesn't matter because
Mahomes.
they saying that Patrick Mahomes 2.0 entering the league this year.
Caleb Williams?
That's what they say.
We'll see. That's an awfully high bar.
Yeah, maybe the greatest ever. We're just going to pay him off the bat.
So, hey,
No pressure, right?
That's what they say. Chicago about to move off. My boy.
Chicago is trading Justin Fields.
Yeah,
He's going to Atlanta.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, there was that video. Did you see him celebrating?
Yeah.
His agent posted
Going
it.
home or
You're
something.
going home.
Yeah.
I mean, you put two and two together. He's
Yeah.
from right outside Atlanta.
I was poking around. It doesn't sound like the Steelers are in on Justin Fields.
No, it's Russell Wilson.
I don't think it's him. That sounds like Kenny Pickett.
That's the greatest news I've heard all day.
He has small hands.
Let's go.
I kind of think it's Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh this year.
That's Mike Tomlin writing his own death wish.
I'm
What they gonna do,
a little
fire
surprised
him?
too.
It's his last year's contract.
What are they gonna do now? Pay him?
He'll find another job tomorrow.
I'm
if they let
telling-
him go.
I'm telling
I
you.
agree with you, by the way. I think they should go after Russ.
Yeah.
They
But
should go after anybody. I think literally anybody's an upgrade over Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and I know they're going to let Trubisky go. Has he been officially released? If not,
tried
he's
to
gonna
Trubisky,
be.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so.
I thought he did like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or a
That's
week
what
ago.
I just was. Yeah, he's gone. All right, Ant, what's up next?
Yeah, we're going to react to Kevin Stefanski's presser, but real quick, guys, if you want even more Browns coverage, don't forget that Mondays and Fridays, G. Bush has the Ultimate Browns show at 5 o'clock every Monday and Friday, give or take. The times do vary, but he's usually live there around 5 o'clock. I don't know what he has up on the docket for tomorrow. He hasn't let me know yet, but tune in to Friday at 5 for the Ultimate Browns show.
Jason, you were in Indianapolis yesterday. You were at Kevin Stefanski's press conference. He spoke for about 20 minutes to the media on a plethora of different topics.
Revealed a lot.
What was your main
I
takeaway?
thought you was gonna say and said nothing.
No,
Well,
I was joking.
Yeah. What was your main takeaway from Kevin Stefanski's 20-minute presser from Indianapolis?
I actually thought it was interesting that he volunteered up that he and Ken Dorsey are going to L.A. next week to see Deshaun. Not necessarily to talk football, but I think it's more of a get-to-know-you session between Ken and Deshaun. He said they're just hanging out type thing. Deshaun's going to start throwing next month, which technically is tomorrow, but I'd say within the coming weeks he's going to start throwing. What else did he say?
He's unsure on who call plays at this point still, which we assume is going to be the case until training camp.
Yeah, they're trying to downplay that, as you would expect. We'll see on that. The joint practices are going to be with Minnesota. They're going back to the Greenbrier. I guess that's going back to what AB said, right? I'm getting confused to who said what.
AB said it, and then he commented on why he liked it. He said it was good to have guys together with no phone service for 9 days. He thought it was beneficial.
Yeah, so they're going back to the Greenbrier. Joint practices are going to be with Minnesota. He likes get a team that he's got familiarity with. Obviously Philly and obviously Minnesota. He's very familiar with Minnesota. He likes the schemes that he wants a different look than what they see, than what the Browns run. So they're going to do 2 years now. We know he loves joint practices. This is probably going to be a recurring thing. Still no word on Brazil in official or even an unofficial off-the-record capacity. There's no – they insist that they haven't heard anything yet.
I thought by announcing they were doing joint practice with Minnesota, to me that was like, all right, we're playing Philly week 1. We know it. We can't have joint practice with the team we're going to play week 1.
Yeah, I talked to people like off to the side, and unofficially off the record, everyone's saying the same thing. Like, we haven't heard anything. We don't know. Now, you would think like that. There's a lot of logistics that are involved in that, so you would think that would come out sooner rather than later. If
Hotel prices in Brazil, if they're doubling up, I mean, they better get on that soon.
Well, I will not be making that trip. I
Why
have
not?
no interest. Oh, Lord, no.
You said you went to Brazil with LeBron and hated it.
Yeah, it was awful. I mean, the trip was cool. It was great. Like, it was really cool to be there.
Well, luckily, I'm not on the travel list with the team, so.
Well, I sat middle seat Houston to Rio, 13 hours.
Oh, no.
I never like
Oh,
that.
no.
That broke me.
That's
That broke me.
tough. He never recovered.
I took my wife and I gave her the window seat and I sat in the middle seat.
What a gentleman.
What a husband you
And
are.
13
Husband of the year
I was telling the
award.
Browns riders in Indy, I'm like, listen, don't make my mistake. Go through Miami. Don't go through Houston. It cuts like 2 or 3 hours off the trip if you take Americans from Miami. And I guess it's to Sao Paulo, so it's probably even a longer flight than Rio was. But I will not be doing. I have no interest in doing that game. But they can have fun with it. Y'all have fun.
I'll be doing it right from
Yeah,
Maria.
I'll be sitting there
right
doing
here,
that.
Maria.
But I mean, it's a great experience. Like, I'm a little bit surprised that the league, if this happens, that the league is putting Deshaun on the national stage. Like, I guess they
Start a season.
Yeah, I mean, it is the spotlight moment. It's first ever Friday night game in 50, 60, 70 years in the NFL. And it makes it like if they do this, he's officially out from underneath. You know, I felt like they've tried to hide him to this point. They haven't been a lot of national games, but if this happens, that's as big as it gets. And you know, there's a lot of logistics for the Browns to figure out in terms of when you go out. I thought Rio was the same time zone as Cleveland. It's just really far south, but I guess Sao Paulo is like 2 hours ahead. Mm-hmm. But it's not like, you know.
It's not a drastic change.
No, it's not like going to Germany or something where it's 6-8 hours ahead or anything like that. It's still relatively close. But they'll have to figure out when do you go out there. Obviously, you come home right after, but, figuring out a practice schedule for that. So it has to be announced first. Like, they still say they don't know. Other interesting things from Kevin yesterday?
I have one thing you haven't mentioned yet.
What's that?
And when they broadcast these pressers, they really
Yeah.
need to give a mic to the questions.
Yeah, I know.
Watching from back home, you have no idea who's asking the question. You can barely hear the question. So I don't even know how the question was phrased and/or who asked the question, but I'm glad someone did. It was about motion and how the ESPN stats had them at ranked 30th or 31st in use of motion. And then Kevin kind of said, well, we like the window dress, but we don't want to run unnecessary motion because it kind of could confuse sometimes too many moving parts isn't always a good thing. And not running enough motion was one of my complaints last year with the offense.
Yeah.
So to hear him at least acknowledge the fact that, hey, I'm aware, here's kind of why I don't, but I'm open to maybe adding a little more in the future, I thought it was a really good question and a kind of actual answer from Kevin when he usually gives you nothing.
I would love to play. If back in my day, I would love to play the Browns. You know why?
Like against the Browns?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Because I know what I got every play. They don't move. That's the hardest. Listen, when you play defense, the hardest part is when the receivers start motioning over, and now you got to think to yourself, oh, shoot, does this change my responsibility? If it's not, especially if it's not man. If it's man, you just go with it. But if it's not that, it's some type of zone, you got to think to yourself, what do I got? So what I used to do is I used to get a whiteboard, and that's how you got to learn the playbook. You got to just motion people and say, what do you got on this if this happens? When it happened in real time, it always makes you have to think, like, unless you just know the playbook like the back of your hand, you always think like, oh my God, what's my new responsibility? The fact that they don't do that, oh yeah, just take the picture of the play or the formation, you know what you got, and you can start thinking about other things.
But they used to under Kevin. That's what's weird. His first year or two, there was a lot of pre-snap motion. I mean, I don't have the numbers. I'd like to go back and get the rankings.
I'm trying to find the numbers from Dorsey last season in Buffalo, how much motion they used.
But it feels like
y'all ain't gonna motion.
It feels like 2020, 2021, there was a lot more pre-snap motion with the Browns than what they showed last year. Because you're right, last year nobody moved.
I'm telling you, the defense, bad, especially as a DB, bad.
And that's part of I think is Kevin's strength is the misdirection, and you think we're going here.
Think about Miami.
They were number one in the league.
They motioned that Tyreek Hill, and everybody, oh my God, where is he going to stop? Where is he going? You think about Kansas City when they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, just sending a motion, coming back, and then boom, sending him back across, left Kadarius Toney wide open. So that motion stuff is really real when it comes to D because there's so much communication that has to happen that you can cause a lot of confusion.
So I can't sparse it by week to week. I only have the full season numbers, but Buffalo 27th in the NFL in pre-snap motion on just 13.4% of snaps. The Browns 31st at 12.4%, so just a 1% increase from Dorsey. Now, granted, he was only the coach for, 10 games? The offensive coordinator for 10 games before he got fired, so I don't know if that was more before the firing and then Brady used less or how that works out, but 27 and 31st in the league last season, according to Seth Walder from the ESPN motion chart. I just retweeted it from the UCSS account if anyone wants to go take a look at it. As far as Deshaun visiting and meeting with Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey in L.A., I know they said technically they can't talk football. I have to imagine there will be some football talked in these conversations.
Of course.
Yeah, like that's just, once again, Tyvus, these are paid liars. Remember, you can't believe everything they say. I want to see those two at a Lakers game, or those three at a Lakers game. Go check out the Hollywood sign. Check out the Venice Boardwalk.
Hollywood. You can put them on a tour bus.
Honestly.
Go past the homes.
No, but here, we saw last season there was some sort of unspoken chemistry, connection, whatever, between Stefanski and Joe Flacco. It just clicked, right? It just worked.
Yeah. And
for whatever reason, it just hasn't clicked in that sense with Deshaun Watson yet. So I'm down for trying literally anything, whatever it takes. Do you want to throw out a crazy idea? A tour bus? Walk the Hollywood Walk of Fame together? I don't give a rat's ass what you want to suggest to get them on the same page, but just spending time together, get to know each other, help develop that chemistry, and maybe you can learn a thing or two about Deshaun and vice versa. Deshaun learns a thing or two about Dorsey and Stefanski, that when push comes to shove in the fourth quarter, something you kind of learn about that person. You won't find out how they react in a pressure situation, but something you learn about them in that situation could then come back into play in a football scenario 3-4 months down the road.
I mean, I don't feel like their relationship wasn't great.
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying Flacco came in, and it was immediate.
Well, Flacco came in.
Boom.
Flacco came in with the I'm playing with house money. Like I'm just let the ball fly type thing. I think Deshaun, it was more, I got to get back into the groove of myself, and I think once he started getting there, boom, he got hurt and he had to deal with all these injuries.
And he's going to have to do that again this year coming off the shoulder injury.
Yeah, technically. So I think it's just going to be one of those things. He's going to start off slow and then ramp up.
Before you go, Jason, I'm not insinuating it's a bad relationship. Like, that's not what I'm just saying. Whatever it takes to bring that relationship from wherever it is, good to great, great to impeccable, impeccable to the greatest relationship ever, to take that next step, I'm all for trying anything.
One thing that AB said the other day that struck me, when Deshaun first came here, I know that there was I won't say it was a concerted effort, but there was a thought of, let's try and limit some of the unnecessary hits that Deshaun takes. We don't want Jalen Hurts out here running around getting killed for no reason. And yet, it just feels like next year they're just going to let Deshaun do whatever he wants to do. Because AB was asked, is there any sort of fear of you need to protect him coming off this bizarre shoulder injury that doesn't happen very often? And do you need to, like, protect him, or do you just cut him loose and let him go? And Andrew said it'll be more of the latter. And that just tells me that between restructuring this entire offense and now, like, just cutting him loose, for 2 years now, he has not played up to the level. He's had some good moments last year. I don't want to misconstrue that. He had some good games last year and some good moments. But I think we can all sit here and say, has he lived up to the expectation that we thought he would after 2 years? I can say I don't think he has. Do you think he has?
No. But I think it's off of that. I think the difference between him and Joe was cut loose. Joe was like, I'm going to let it fly.
Joe had nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But there's a difference in cutting Joe Flacco loose from the pocket and just ripping it around the field, and cutting Deshaun Watson loose on scrambles and bootlegs and everything else where you're exposing him to hits. And that's what I'm saying. I think next year they're going to cut him loose and let him do whatever he wants.
I think he's smart enough. He gets down, though. I don't think he, like, lowers his shoulder. He's not like Anthony Richardson or Josh Allen.
No, but he takes some hits. I mean, throughout his entire career, he takes some hits.
He better get down.
And even going back
even his big brother Cam Newton, you better get down.
Yeah. But you go back to his days in Houston, like, Deshaun was best as an improviser. And that's not a knock. That's like very few quarterbacks are best in that situation. And Mahomes is. And you look at guys around the league, Lamar Jackson is, like, I don't want to say
Lamar gets down.
Even Josh Allen, to the extent, is an improviser.
He dropping his shoulder.
But different bill. But I'm just saying, like, when I say he's best as an improviser, that's not a knock on what Deshaun does. He's just best when he's out there playing backyard football.
Improviser.
That's my point. And if it takes, you want to say cutting it loose, you want to say taking the restraints off, however you want to phrase it, letting Deshaun kind of control whether it's the full ability to call any audible he wants to play, change a route, whatever he needs to do to maximize what he does best, which is, he plays backyard football. But I mean that, like, once again, Mahomes, like, in the best way possible, let him kind of take advantage of what he does that other quarterbacks can't. And even he said it, when it was talking about the first 15. I don't think that's what he meant to say, but he's like, I just like kind of going out there, let me see what's happening, I'll read the defense, I'll adjust however I adjust, and then I'll make the best play possible for our team. Whatever it takes to get Deshaun to doing that for 50, 60 plays a game, I'm all for. Like, whatever it takes, let it rip.
And I think that's what you're going to see. I think they're at the point of saying, listen, we're going into year 3 now. This has to work. We have to make this work. Here we go. Like, what do you want?
There's no point holding anything back now, right? Like, there's no.
It has to work.
Yeah.
Like, if it doesn't work this year, that's what I wrote today. Like, if it doesn't work this year, it'll be really interesting to see. I don't want to get too far off track. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not they restructure his contract this offseason or not.
Wasn't Barry asked about that?
Yeah, I asked him. And he gave me a 2-word answer and moved on very quickly. He didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it.
What was the answer?
He said, not necessarily. I said, do you need to restructure Deshaun again this offseason? He said, not necessarily. What's the next question? Like, he didn't want to talk about it anymore. But because the more that you restructure a contract, the harder it is to get out of at the end, the more painful it is at the end to get out of. And they've done a really nice job of, like, I wrote it for today, like, they nailed the cap in terms of projecting how high it was going to go. Barry said it fell without specific numbers. It landed about where they thought it would. And they did a really nice job. They picked the right contracts to restructure in terms of, like, Miles last year and Njoku last year. Joel was a little bit of a risk just because he's getting a little bit older. Wyatt coming off the calf last year was a little bit of a risk, but they picked the right guys. Obviously, they've already restructured Denzel. Now we'll see if they restructure Deshaun again, because the cap number this year is $64 million. If they restructure it and lower it to a more manageable number, well, now you're going to push next year's number over $70 million. And then you're going to push more dead money to the end when he's not even under contract. And that's where Atlanta really kind of burned itself. Atlanta went back and restructured Matt Ryan one too many times, and they got whacked with a $40 million dead cap charge when Ryan was finishing his career in Indianapolis and he wasn't even on the roster. Atlanta still had a $40 million cap hole on their cap. So that's what you're trying to avoid. So it doesn't, I don't want to make too much of it because it doesn't necessarily mean they want out of Deshaun if they don't restructure it. But it's just curious. If they don't restructure, it's a lot easier to get out of at the end. If it doesn't work and you need to find an exit strategy, I think at the end of this year is when you start talking about if he has another poor year, whether through injury or something else, I think they really have to start having honest conversations of an exit strategy or what do we do here. It's going to be a lot harder to do that if they do restructure this. But because of the cap spike, because of some of the other decisions they've made, they don't necessarily, Andrew said, they don't necessarily have to restructure it. And that, I don't want to make it sound like if they don't restructure it, that means they're trying to get out of it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying if they do restructure it, it will be a lot harder to get out of at the end.
And Tyus, I'm curious of your opinion on that one sec, but just so everyone knows, if they were to restructure his contract, it would open about $35 million, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, it depends on how they do it. Last year, I think it was $36 million, and by doing that, you convert it into signing bonus, and then you push the money forward. So the cap number for this year was supposed to be $55 million, but after they restructured it became 64 this year, 64, and then it's a $9 million dead cap charge the year after his contract expires. So you just keep kicking the can down the road, and the snowball just builds the more you restructure that contract.
Okay, Tyus, thoughts?
I think Deshaun will have a great season this season. I don't know why I feel like that. I think that they'll do something that will make this fan base go, oh, my God. Andrew Berry does it every year. He gets somebody or brings somebody in that gets everybody excited about the season. So I don't expect nothing different there. As far as the restructuring the contract go, I mean, you always said at some point, they're going to have to pay the bill.
Right.
No matter what you do, at some point, the hits go hit.
If you pick the right guys, it mitigates the damage. Philadelphia's done a really nice job with restructuring the right guys. Like, Philly's been the model of this. They pick the right guys every year. They move money around, and they've never really been
So is Amari Cooper that guy that?
What's that?
Is Amari Cooper the other guy that?
Well, I mean, it's going to be Chubb. Chubb's going to be
yeah.
the guy now, and maybe Cooper. I don't know. We'll see who else. I mean, they already.
If they did restructure their contracts, how much do you think they can?
Well, Chubb, you're going to probably get $4 or $5 million off of that. I would think you're going to turn it. Although I don't know. Like, Chubb is really interesting because it's not guaranteed.
And it depends how long they want to stretch it out. Right?
Yeah, and it's not even really a restructure with him because there's not guaranteed money.
It's an extension.
We're not going to give you this We're not going to give you this 11 you got coming to you. Now, can we come up with a number that we can both agree on, and then give you incentives to make the rest of it back? Type thing. So that's
he could say I'll take 5.5 but give me 3 in incentives.
6 in incentives. Yeah.
Up to 11.
Really?
Whatever. I mean, he's as much as he wants. I don't know what they're going to settle on and because it would be a new deal, like you can make it mostly signing bonus in year one, like they did with Deshaun. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of ways around it. And the one advantage that the Browns have, real quick on this, the fact that Jimmy Haslam does have the amount of wealth that he does, yes. Yeah. It makes it not all – I mean, look at the Bengals. Not all owners are liquid to where – I mean –
paid up for, we talked about it Tuesday. The Browns have done a terrific job of paying and structuring contracts to get guys money up front and pay it in hand. Like Dalvin Tomlinson's cap hit has been $10 million over the last 2 years. He's been paid $30 million.
Well, since we have such a great owner in Jimmy and D. Haslam, who does a tremendous job. I think that y'all do an unbelievable job of paying people for what they're going to be. Maybe not necessarily what they are at the moment.
Are you asking for a raise?
And the reason that I bring that up is because I think that this guy on y'all radio staff by the name of Tyvis Powell I think, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's one of the greatest, but I think he does a pretty good job in the pregame and postgame. Not only handling the callers, but he does an excellent job of being a voice for athletes and coaches, and he does just a really unique perspective that for some odd reason after he says something on the radio and we go interview the players or the coaches, they literally say exactly what Tyvis said. I think that he does such a tremendous job that we should take care of him and just extend him a raise.
You looking for Njoku money or?
No, I don't want
Deshaun
Njoku money. I don't want none of that. Like, I'm just, you put an extra $200 on my check.
That's a big plea for $200.
I just $200 on my check. I'm not asking for thousands of
Put
dollars.
an extra zero on there.
No, because I want to continue to keep. I want to keep progressing. But just an extra $200, maybe $300 on my check, I would greatly appreciate it. Go a long way. I got 2 kids. I want to, start putting their college funds away. This would be a great job. You could think of it that way. You're help. What is that?
I got a question, but Ant, we got one more resource.
Well, real quick, we had to take the money out of the budget and the camera. Sorry, Tyvis. Yeah, guys, before we wrap up today's show, I actually have a shameless self-plug for our last little break here today. I'm recording. I got invited on my first podcast tonight, and I am getting to talk all things video games with the Show Boys podcast, who are a fan of the show. It's going to premiere next Thursday night, and I'm recording it tonight. We're going to talk about the console wars, and it's a huge March Madness series that they're putting on over there. 5 episodes in total, and I'm really excited about it. So wanted to give those guys a shout-out for inviting me on, and I'm really hyped to do it tonight.
Our little Anthony Antonelli growing up.
What game are you breaking down? Or are you just?
So we have 16 Xbox exclusive titles that we're going over to tonight. And we got to pick the best one out of those 16, and then they'll have episodes on PlayStation, Nintendo, and PC later on with other people, and I'll be back for the championship round.
Nice. It was the Show Boys podcast, you said?
Show Boys podcast. You can check them out over on YouTube. There's some fans of the show. Really nice guys. Love them. They made that graphic for me. That wasn't even me.
Nice. One more question on the restructures. So if they don't do Deshaun, and for number's sake, let's just say it's $35 million for Deshaun, right? If they restructure. Who else could they restructure? Cooper's on the last year of his deal. Chubb will give you a couple million. If they want to go big fish hunting in free agency, which maybe they don't, but if they do, they're going to need to find some more money. Who else could they restructure to get to that,
I mean, they could always go back and look at the contracts they could do Miles again, I guess, theoretically. They could go back and hit the contracts they've already hit. I don't have the entire list in front of me. They're already under the cap.
After the award, they are about $4 million under.
Yeah, they're already under. But obviously, you want a little bit more space than that because they got a lot of work to do still in free agency. We're bringing back their own guys and everything else. So Chubb's going to free up some money for them. They could look at Cooper, although I don't know that I would.
Cooper's on last year's deal. It's tough to restructure last year's deal.
I mean, you'd have to extend him at that point. Miles, they could do again.
Jack Conklin.
Conklin's interesting. I don't know what they're going to do there.
If you restructure,
I would go to him and say, can we get the money back?
Well, that's not happening.
He's going to tell you no.
That's not happening.
Can we get the money back?
We owe Tyvis $200 extra.
What if he retires?
Why would he do that?
Just ask out of curiosity. What if he was like,
do you still get paid your guaranteed money if it's a retirement?
I feel like you shouldn't.
No, I don't believe you do.
No.
Yeah, I feel like you shouldn't.
Yeah, I think you do. That team still controls your rights, right? For
why would he
the length
do
of the contract?
How many years he got left on it? 3?
Don't matter. It's guaranteed money.
No,
I
I'm
think
talking
he's
about
got 2 left.
2 left, yeah.
I think
So
it was it a 3-year deal or 4-year? 3? 4? I don't remember.
So you telling me he's got to get up for the next 2 years and continue to train?
I mean,
take time away from his family.
He's had 2 massive knee injuries now on that.
I'm trying to push him into retirement. You want to get up for 2 more years, take time away from your family.
It's a 4-year extension.
Get your body all beat up.
So they got 3 years left on that.
Your body's gonna get all beat up again.
Yeah, that's worth his cap hit in 2024. So this year, $12 million. His cap hit 2025 and 26, 19.5. He ain't going anywhere.
Wow.
he gonna save.
Now his dead cap.
I'm good.
So his dead cap's more than his actual cap number this season. But next season, if they were to cut him after 2024, the dead cap number is just $8 million as opposed to 19.5. So he's probably getting cut next offseason.
Watch he have a phenomenal year this year too.
Everyone would be thrilled.
I think he's gonna have.
Everyone would be thrilled. Andrew Berry did say all 3 tackles expected to be fully healthy by the start of training camp, which means I don't anticipate DeJuan, Jed Wills, or Conklin being traded at any point this offseason.
I don't know.
Jed Wills could get traded.
Who you putting at left?
I don't know. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
Do you think a team would take Conklin? I just
No.
I don't know. Yeah, it takes
Not
two
with
to
that-
tango.
not with
Like,
that
I don't know who's
contract.
taking that
with
contract.
the contract and the severity of that knee injury, that's a hard sell. I don't know what they're going to do there because I don't think you can sit DeWand. You
Not without Bill being there.
Yeah, I don't think you. I think you're running a real risk if you sit that guy.
Because he's going to be right back up
Yep.
to 450.
Yep, he's got to play. He's got to play.
And he was great last year. He was great.
He was very good.
It was awesome.
Yeah, he was very good.
You could argue he was Conklin didn't play enough, but I thought he was better in the limited action we saw than Jed Wills. So, we're going to overtime. Man, what's on the docket for overtime today?
Emo Jimmy Butler is back, and he did a song with Fall Out Boy, and I'm so excited to talk about it.
This is right up Anthony's alley. We'll see you on overtime. Good.